Cecil never intended to spare such a formidable general. His promise of retreat was a calculated lie from the start. Xinyu City must fall, and Lu Bu must die. Enraged by the betrayal, Lu Bu coughed up blood as the 8 million-strong orc army prepared to storm the city. Boom, boom, boom. The war drums thundered, forcing the reluctant orc soldiers to launch their assault on Xinyu City. Damn it! Save General Lu! The human soldiers roared, throwing open the gates. I shouted orders for Su Air, Su San, and Su Si to lead a rescue team and retrieve the general. Caught between the city and the advancing orc tide, the exhausted Lu Bu faced certain death. As the rescue team leaped from the walls, Cecil sneered, "Legendary realm, move out." 20 figures soared from the orc ranks, hurtling toward the vulnerable Lu Bu. I narrowed my eyes. These 20 black-robed figures were not orcs, but mysterious experts. With the black-robed figures moving faster than the Nirvana realm rescuers, Lu Bu was defenseless, unable to withstand even a minor soldier's strike. "Oomph, you'll have to go through me first." I leaped from the wall, drawing my sword to intercept the 20 black-robed experts. I sighed internally, realizing my hope that Cecil would honor his word was foolish. Azure Dragon Sword Technique. I unleashed dragon-shaped Gang Chi, striking toward the black-robed figures. The lethal energy forced the experts to halt their advance. While I lacked Lu Bu's raw power, I was more than capable of stalling these opponents. Seizing the moment, Su San and the others reached Lu Bu and carried him toward the city. The loyal red hair galloped behind them, darting through the city gates. The Behemoth Legion advanced, while the Wolf Riders closed in on the city walls. "Archers, fire!" an orc general commanded. A rain of arrows forced the rescue team to land and finish their retreat on foot. The Wolf Riders were closing in, and the rescue team alone could not protect the general. Kill! 10,000 Bingzhou Wolf cavalry surged from the gates, charging headlong into the Wolf Rider ranks. "To kill our general, you must step over our corpses," the soldiers roared, fueled by righteous fury. Inspired by Lu Bu's valor, the Bingzhou Wolf cavalry fought with suicidal intensity, throwing the Wolf Riders into temporary chaos. The 10,000 Bingzhou Wolf cavalry were all at the peak of the Baishui realm, a formidable force. Their opponents, the Wolf Riders, were mostly at the peak of the Ninghun realm, making them no match for the elite human cavalry. However, the 50,000-strong Wolf Rider force kept replenishing their ranks, trading lives for progress. As the Behemoth Legion approached, the ground trembled. The city walls could not withstand their crushing power. The battle seemed destined for defeat, just as I feared. "Archers, cover the Bingzhou Wolf cavalry." Andrew commanded the Centaur Archer Legion to rain arrows on the orc rear, hoping to alleviate the pressure. But the sheer number of orcs was overwhelming. 8 million soldiers stretched for 100 miles. Even if they stood still, they would take days to slaughter. The Black Jade cavalry donned infantry armor, preparing to hold the line against the behemoths. The behemoths' footsteps shook the earth, their massive forms striking terror into the defenders. Standing 10 to 15 meters tall, they loomed over the battlefield. They were as tall as the city walls, possessing legendary realm strength and impenetrable hides. The Behemoth Legion was the Orc Empire's most feared weapon. Though fear flickered in the soldiers' eyes, it was quickly replaced by a resolve to fight to the death. They were the human race, and they would not fear beasts. Above, I clashed with the 20 black-robed experts. I suffered multiple wounds. The black-robed figures used strange, corrosive techniques unlike any orc magic. My wounds were widening, bleeding incessantly. My past experience against orcs proved useless against these mysterious foes. Dodging a thrust, I sneered. "You aren't orcs. The Dark Knight Empire sent you, didn't they?" With the orcs' own legendary experts dead, these reinforcements could only be from the Yanhuang Empire's mortal enemy. The conflict between me and the Dark Knight Empire had been ongoing since the First Prince's era. "Ha ha ha, so what if we are?" A black-robed expert replied in broken human. "If we didn't have to hide our true forms, you'd be dead already." Their tone was one of arrogant superiority, as if looking down on a lesser species. "So, you are the Dark Knight Monarch's men." I dodged another strike, mocking. "He reaches far. meddling even in the Orc Empire's affairs. The Dark Knight Monarch? Humph. He isn't worthy to command us, the expert scoffed. My eyes flashed with surprise. The situation was far more complex than I thought. If not the monarch, who else dared to oppose the Yanhuang Empire on the eastern continent? Stop talking. Kill him before we ruin our master's plan, one commanded. Kill me? Not so easy. Wiping blood from my mouth, my eyes burned with intensity. I have never known defeat. Today, I will see who you cowards really are. I'll tell you this. Killing you is quite simple, the expert retorted. He lunged forward with blinding speed, his dagger striking like a viper toward my chest. 19 other black-robed legendary experts closed in on Su Long. They unleashed a thick, suffocating black mist, far more sinister than the Gang Chi of the Four Directions continent, seemingly capable of corroding the soul. The mist coated 20 weapons, striking at Su Long from all directions. Fight! Su Long let out a low growl. He knew he couldn't dodge such a powerful encirclement. As the god of war, he refused to beg or flee. If he was to die, he would take his enemies with him. Azure Dragon Sword Technique. Su Long struck, but the black mist instantly devoured his sword energy, moving too fast for him to react. Squelch! The mist consumed his sword and began to corrode his hand and arm. Su Long dropped the hilt as another blade of mist slashed toward his neck. Unarmed, he had no way to parry. 19 streams of mist sealed his escape routes, a death trap. Even the stoic Su Long felt the weight of impending death. A veteran of countless battles, he finally faced his end. He only regretted never holding his grandchild, though he feared not death itself. Suddenly, the mist froze in place, locked by an unknown force. Roar! A clear, resonant azure dragon roar echoed across the heavens. The sky darkened with heavy clouds, reflecting the Emperor Lord's fury. Who gave you the audacity to kill my father? A thunderous voice boomed. A quiet moment passed. The roar drowned out the sounds of the battlefield. Human soldiers looked up in ecstasy. It's the Emperor Lord. With the Emperor Lord's arrival, the human race's morale surged. The Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry's Gang Chi flared as my soul of the human race passive took effect. Above, the void tore open, and a massive azure dragon claw emerged, gripping the black mist. Pop! The mist vanished, and the phantom claw shattered, releasing the spatial lock. You're, Su Long murmured as a streak of light descended before him. The 20 black-robed experts recognized me. Using this soul of the human race talent, I had channeled Lu Bu's martial prowess. Now at the legendary peak, I sat upon the Wushuang Imperial throne, my cold gaze sweeping over the enemies. Father, return to the city. Leave this to me. I handed Su Long a little Zhizai immortal pill. Su Long accepted it, nodding. Be careful, you. If the enemy is too strong, we retreat. The iron-willed general had vanished, replaced by a father concerned only for his son. No territory was worth more than his son. I know, don't worry. I waved my hand, using the throne's power to send Su Long back to Qinyu City. I turned to face the 20 legendary experts. They sensed a lethal threat from me and hesitated. One asked hoarsely, "Are you Su Yu?" Before he finished, whoosh, a third-stage true dragon aura manifested as an azure dragon phantom, lunging at the speaker. The strike exceeded legendary power. The black-robed man scrambled to block with his mist. Umph, filthy dogs, daring to speak my name. I remained seated, flicking my hand to release another, even larger azure dragon phantom. The dragon's roar shook the battlefield. The black-robed men cursed. The rumors of Emperor Su's arrogance were true. I attacked without a word, leaving them feeling humiliated. Join forces. Kill him, one shouted. They formed a formation, unleashing waves of evil, corrupting mist to entangle the dragons. Roar! The two dragons pierced the mist and tore through one attacker's chest, spraying black blood. However, the concentrated mist eventually dissolved the phantoms. Impressive, human emperor. One sneered. But your dragons are gone. What now? Demons, daring to be arrogant before me? My calm gaze unnerved them. Demons. He knows. Kill him and slaughter the city. With their cover blown, the 19 black robes shattered, revealing their true forms. They were hunched, humanoid creatures with black claws, shriveled skin, bone spikes, and rows of sharp teeth. Their bony tails whipped through the air. Their aura shifted from gang chi to pure, evil abyss energy. The injured demon regenerated instantly, rejoining the group. My system scanned them. Demon slaves, middle-rank demons. Level 4 demons, legendary peak, bred by an abyss lord for planar conquest. I recognized the abyss aura from my own demon dog collection. Having exchanged data with Mr. Bai Yan, I was now highly sensitive to abyssal energy. The abyss had clearly infiltrated the Dark Knight Alliance. A demon sneered. A mere emperor of the lower realm, daring to attack us? Your courage. They had learned the local language, but I cut him off. 10,000 dragons. I slammed the throne. Roar. Countless azure dragon phantoms soared from behind the throne. Each one was 7 or 8 meters long, appearing as solid as reality. They roared and circled, their countless dragon eyes locked onto the 20 demon slaves as if sizing up their own prey. Hot, scorching breath puffed from their thick dragon nostrils, and a hint of malice glinted within their dragon eyes. The sight of the overwhelming number of azure dragon phantoms was shocking. A powerful dragon might saturated the heavens and earth, causing the dark clouds in the sky to churn and roll violently. The potent true dragon aura possessed the power to reshape the very heavens and earth. The azure dragon phantoms circled around and above the throne, as if my back were a dragon's nest, continuously birthing an endless stream of phantoms. Compared to this swarm of dragons, my figure appeared quite small, yet this entire legion of dragons obeyed my every command. The demon slaves were completely dumbfounded. The words the demon slaves were about to speak were choked back. The 20 of them stared blankly at this shocking scene, their expressions stiff, their strange, ugly eyes filled with panic and awe. You only had 2 dragons. A shrill, bitter voice rang out. The demon slaves were in a total panic. They had barely managed to destroy the previous 2 dragons by working together, but now, standing before them were countless azure dragon phantoms. 100? 1,000? 10,000? It was impossible to count. Who told you I only had 2 dragons? My voice was calm, carrying a faint trace of mockery. This was the true strength of the 3rd stage of the azure dragon phantoms. As long as my physical body remained intact, I could summon an unlimited number of powerful azure dragon phantoms to attack my enemies. Every single dragon possessed power that surpassed the legendary peak. You don't get cocky. So what if you have many dragons? Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have dragons? One demon slave braced himself and shouted at me, but his blustering tone could not hide the terror in his heart. Demons are bloodthirsty, but that does not mean they are stupid. When it was clear the opponent possessed the power to crush and kill them instantly, why would they throw their lives away? I'm sorry, but because I have so many dragons, I can do whatever I want. I smiled calmly. The true dragon aura was the Imperial bloodline talent of the human race on the 4 Directions continent, arguably the most powerful force on the entire continent. As the 4 Directions continent was a main plane, how could its most powerful force fail to kill a few measly little demons? I waved my hand gently. Swish, swish, swish. One after another, the true dragon phantoms soared into the sky, roaring with earth-shaking dragon cries. Roar. The azure dragon phantoms descended rapidly, carrying a dragon might as vast as mountains and seas, pressing down on the demon slaves until they trembled uncontrollably. Resist together, one demon slave shrieked hoarsely. They had to join forces to withstand the might of the phantoms. Only then could they survive. Pucci. A massive amount of black energy surged up, manifesting into a tangible, chilling mist. This was the purest energy of the abyss. It made one tremble. In all the myriad planes, there were no creatures more evil than demons. However, roar. The azure dragon phantoms roared incessantly, their massive dragon claws tearing down viciously. Pucci. The thick black energy was shredded like tattered cloth. Countless dragons plunged into the darkness, their dragon teeth biting, claws tearing, dragon might suppressing, and tails sweeping. Within just a few breaths, the black energy was completely dispersed by the dragons. Once the mist cleared, the state of the demon slaves was revealed. Several thick azure dragon phantoms had extended their claws, gripping the demon slaves tightly, their black energy suppressed to nothing by the dragon might. A few mere low-level demons could not resist the might of the azure dragons. Swish! I flew over rapidly. My eyes narrowed as I looked down at the demon slaves from above. The demon slaves dared not meet my sharp gaze. They lowered their heads, gritting their teeth, deep resentment hidden in their eyes. They absolutely could not accept that they, warriors of the Abyss Plane, had been defeated by an emperor of a lower realm. It was a humiliation. Yet, the fact that they had been defeated by me was a reality that stung the pride of these higher plane beings deeply. Why have you come? How many of you are there? Answer me, demons of the Abyss. My cold voice rang out. If we tell the truth, will you, great Emperor Su, spare our lives? One demon slave asked, his eyes darting around as he looked up with a fawning smile. I fell silent for a moment, accessing the demon data transmitted to me by Mr. Bayan's system. Demons, extremely evil creatures of betrayal, bloodlust, lies, and greed, born in the sunless, endless Abyss Plane. It was clear that extracting intelligence from a demon's mouth was truly difficult, especially since these demon slaves served a demon lord. Under the pressure of their master, they would never reveal any information to an enemy. It was difficult for me to obtain useful intelligence from them. Upon realizing this, I immediately asked the system in my mind, System, is there any way to make them tell the truth? Can truth pills or soul-searching pills work? Apologies, host. Your current territory level is not high enough to exchange for items that can force demonic creatures to speak the truth. The system's voice echoed. Demons were unique creatures that could give even the gods of the heavens a headache. Killing them was easy, but making them submit or speak the truth was harder than killing them. While I was silent, the demon slave continued to explain with a fawning smile, chattering incessantly and trying to negotiate with me, emphasizing how much benefit they could bring me. Respected Great Emperor Su, we are an honest and loving race. We truly wish to trade information for our lives. No one likes death, and demons are no exception. If there is a chance to live, they will naturally fight for it. I just looked at the group of demons coldly and snapped my fingers. Eat them. Eat them. What did that mean? The demon slave's chatter stopped instantly. All 20 of them were dumbfounded. Roar. The azure dragon phantoms roared incessantly. Countless dragons dove down rapidly, their massive maws opening wide to swallow the 20 demon slaves whole. Ah! The shrill, miserable screams of the demon slaves echoed from within the dragons' bellies. Under the devouring power of the potent dragon chi, black mist erupted from their bodies, and each demon slave's body visibly shrank. So eat, meant letting the dragons eat them. This was the final thought remaining in the demon slaves' minds before they died. Using a massive amount of dragon chi to forcibly erode the abyssal energy within the demon slaves, and then killing them completely. This was the method for killing demons that I had just obtained from the data. Demons are not easily killed, especially those from the Abyss Plane. They are even harder to destroy. As long as the abyssal energy within them is not exhausted, demons are essentially immortal creatures. Since I couldn't get information, I would simply kill these enemies. I never dragged things out. I would never make the mistake of a villain dying because they talked too much. God of War Su Long, who had just finished adjusting his breath atop Chinyu City, opened his eyes just in time to see me controlling the dragons to forcefully annihilate the 20 black-robed figures. Yuer has truly become stronger. Su Long's voice carried a hint of gratification. He had not consumed the little Zizai immortal pill himself, but had fed it to the severely injured Lu Bu. The pill was indeed powerful. In less than half an incense stick of time, Lu Bu's severed right arm had grown back. The internal injuries and external wounds in his body had also vanished. Except for the lack of gang qi in his body, Lu Bu had recovered completely. Fengxian owes the Emperor Lord a life. Lu Bu smiled bitterly. That the battle had to be finished by the Emperor Lord himself was something a proud general found hard to accept. Alas, to be a general and yet not as strong as the Emperor Lord, it was truly shameful. Andrew looked at the white-robed figure in the sky with fanatical eyes, muttering to himself, "Master, it is Master who has come." The battle in the sky had ended not long ago. but the fighting on the ground continued. Prince Cecil no longer had any legendary realm experts under his command, and even the foreign aid, the demon slaves, were all dead. Seeing me kill the demon slaves, the corner of Cecil's eye twitched uncontrollably. He had not forgotten the Dark Knight Monarch's stern warning. The identities of these envoys are very important. Do not let them get hurt. Well, now the envoys weren't hurt, but they had all been swallowed by my dragons. How was he supposed to explain this to the Dark Knight Monarch? Should he say, hey, your envoys were all eaten by Su Yu's dragons? Cecil's mouth tasted bitter. He truly couldn't fathom how he, who had held the absolute advantage, had suddenly lost all his high-end combat power. It was all the fault of this detestable human emperor. All the fault of this me. Without the assistance of legendary realm experts, how was he supposed to fight this battle? Just as Cecil was dazed, I snapped my fingers. Snap! The azure dragon phantoms dissipated. Even though I now possessed the powerful strength of Lu Bu, I dared not consume my gang chi limitlessly to maintain these dragons. Summoning the azure dragon phantoms was simply too taxing on my gang chi. A mere few minutes of fighting the demon slaves had left me with very little gang chi, making it impossible to sustain the phantoms. However, the battle on the ground continued. The Bingzhou wolf cavalry were powerful, but the city gate was only so wide. Only so many could exit to fight the orcs. But there were only 100,000 Bingzhou wolf cavalry, while the orcs numbered a full 8 million. The Bingzhou wolf cavalry alone could not kill all these orcs. By the time I had dealt with the demon slaves, 10,000 Bingzhou wolf cavalry had already fallen, and they were being forced back by the massive tide of wolf riders, tigermen, and bearmen. Although the enemy's peak combat power on the battlefield had been eliminated, their army remained largely intact. Kill! The orcs roared, charging forward with great strides. The massive ground legions forced the Bingzhou wolf cavalry to retreat step by step. It wasn't that the human soldiers weren't strong enough. It was that they faced far too many enemies. Kill one orc, and 2 more stood up. Kill 2, and 4 more stood up. It was endless. The soldiers were human, too. Their hands were going numb from the slaughter. Their internal gang chi was nearly depleted. Aside from the centaur archers on the walls providing cover, everyone else had to remain on the ramparts to guard against the behemoth's upcoming assault. No one could help the Bingzhou wolf cavalry. The human forces were too few. The cruelty of the battlefield was laid bare before everyone. Humph! I snorted coldly. The supreme Imperial throne drifted rapidly, arriving above the Bingzhou wolf cavalry. Emperor Lord! Emperor Lord! The Bingzhou wolf cavalry looked up, clutching their weapons and armor tightly. Their eyes filled with hope as they gazed at me. Great Emperor Su was the faith of the human race. The fanatical worship the humans held for me was an emotion outsiders could hardly understand. It was absolute trust. They believed that no difficulty was insurmountable in the presence of the Emperor Lord. I would naturally not let them down. Sitting on the throne, I floated above the Bingzhou wolf cavalry, facing the wave-like, relentless orc legion alongside them. Tell me, what is fearlessness? I shouted. Even if there are thousands, I shall go. For the country and the people, we fight to the death. The 90,000 Bingzhou wolf cavalry let out an angry roar, a sound that was hearty and resonant, echoing across the entire battlefield. Their soaring morale was blinding. Kill! I commanded coldly. Kill! The Bingzhou wolf cavalry mustered the last of their gang chi, let out an earth-shattering roar, and charged madly toward the wolf riders. No need for encouragement, no need for promises, no need for heavy rewards. With just one word from me, they could unleash their greatest power, fighting for the Emperor Lord until the very moment they fell. Damn it, kill all these people for me. Cecil roared in anger. He was not reconciled. The orcs could still fight. Yet, as the human emperor, how could I sit by and watch my soldiers be slaughtered? Su Long was injured. Lu Bu was severely wounded. The 2 legendary realm experts were unable to fight. But the human soldiers still had me. I watched the intense battlefield with cold eyes. Every human warrior was fighting in a bloodbath, swearing to fight to the death. Do not ask for reasons. Do not ask for victory or defeat. Wherever the Emperor Lord's sword points, that is where we shall conquer. This was the most iron-blooded loyalty. My robes billowed, my black hair danced, and my deep eyes flashed with sharp light. I raised my hands and shouted, "Sword, come!" Swish, 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 swish. Transparent, sharp swords soared from behind me. More and more appeared. The dense swarm of transparent long swords traced beautiful arcs in the sky. Then, the transparent swords, carrying blinding gang chi, descended in unison. This was the Void Sword Treasury. The Void Sword Treasury talent I had never used before. The sword intent of the Yanhuang precious sword I had been nurturing was now unleashed in full force. Over 100 phantoms of the Yanhuang precious sword soared into the sky, each one equivalent to the peak strength of my current physical body. In other words, every single one of these swords possessed the power of a full-force strike from a human legendary peak expert. Poochie, poochie, poochie. After the intense, ear-piercing sound of breaking air, before the orcs could even react. Boom, boom, boom. Each sword smashed down into the middle of the Wolf Rider, Bearman, and Tigerman legions, causing massive explosions. The dense sound of bombardment rang out continuously. Orc bones and flesh were thrown into the air, and screams were endless. It was as if over 100 AGM-158 JSSM missiles had landed. Each longsword caused thousands of orc deaths. A deep crater suddenly appeared within a 100-meter radius. The bombardment of over 100 transparent longswords created a vacuum zone within a 10,000-meter radius. The entire 500,000-strong Bearman Legion was blasted into slag by the transparent swords. The 600,000-strong Tigerman Cavalry Legion could not escape death either. Of the 200,000 Wolf Riders, only the few thousand closest to the front line survived. Behind them lay the annihilated Foxman Archer Legion, the Dogman Scout Legion, the White Leopard Light Cavalry Legion. A full 3 million orcs died under the dense bombardment of my sword intent. Not one survived. An incredibly long vacuum zone appeared before the Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry. Suddenly, the entire battlefield fell into a deathly silence, ushering in a brief moment of stillness. All the orcs were dumbfounded. Hiss! Cecil gasped, his lion face filled with shock, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Is this even human? One move. With just one move, he killed a 3 million-strong orc legion. Even if 10 human legendary peak experts came here, they couldn't achieve such a dazzling feat. Cecil looked up, swallowing nervously. He gazed at me in the distance, his eyes filled with complexity, confusion, and a trace of fear. It was fortunate that he was far away, and fortunate that I couldn't be bothered to target him specifically. Otherwise, if all those 100 sword intents had landed on his head, there would likely be no such orc as Cecil left in this world. Thinking of this, Cecil couldn't help but shudder. Ugh, it seems I still can't fully control my own power. I sighed in my heart, feeling a bit regretful. I had originally intended to use a portion of the sword intent to kill Cecil, but once the sword intent was released, it slipped out of my control and fell into the orc formation all at once. However, even so, I was very satisfied with my lethality. The combination of the soul of the human race talent and the Void Sword Treasury talent produced unexpectedly good results. After the brief silence on the battlefield, the human warriors and Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry atop Qinyu City erupted into huge cheers. Long live the Emperor Lord! Long live the Emperor Lord! All the humans were cheering with extreme excitement. They flushed red, cheering and leaping on the battlefield. One move, 3 million orcs slain. Ask yourself, across the entire Four Directions continent, what other emperor is as formidable as Great Emperor Su? The humans had enough pride to cheer. All the orcs stared blankly at the humans roaring and cheering on the battlefield. They looked up in confusion at the white-robed figure high in the sky and those cold, solid eyes. This man was stronger than anyone had expected. The remaining 5 million orcs were shocked. The thousands of wolf riders were at a loss, and every orc's eyes held a fear that went bone deep. This was no longer worship of the strong. It was pure fear. I was no longer just strong. I was slaughtering. I possessed the power to massacre the orcs at will. However, these orcs had no idea that I had actually just had a moment of indulgence. The soul of the human race talent had enhanced my innate abilities, allowing the true dragon aura to reach the third stage perfectly. But the third stage true dragon aura consumed Gang Chi energy extremely rapidly, and I had already exhausted most of my Gang Chi in the previous battle with the demon slaves. And the sword intent of the Void Sword Treasury had also been completely released just now. At this moment, I had no Gang Chi left, no sword intent left. Despite having the strength of a legendary peak expert, I could no longer continue fighting. Combining all of my talents, strictly speaking, I was an emperor who excelled in explosive combat. While the simultaneous release of sword intent was shocking, I no longer had the strength to continue the battle. But undoubtedly, the death of 3 million orcs was very shocking, and no one knew that I had no power left to fight. Every orc had only one thought in their heart: retreat quickly, my beast monarch. If they kept fighting, one more move from this great Emperor Su would wipe them all out. Many orcs' legs were already shaking, their eyes filled with horror and fear. No matter how fierce a warrior is, they cannot maintain their courage in the face of absolute, terrifying power. That they hadn't turned and fled was already a testament to their strict discipline. However, Cecil took a deep breath and did not choose to retreat. He was not reconciled. Having reached this point, he couldn't turn back. He had to keep fighting, even if it meant sacrificing the lives of all the orcs. Roar! Cecil let out a roar of frustration, his voice gritted and angry as it echoed across the battlefield. All forces, attack! Attack! The humans only have one Suyu. He cannot stop my army alone. Even if we die, we will die on the path of the charge. Orcs are invincible. Cecil roared hoarsely, desperately trying to boost morale. Yes, Cecil firmly believed that no matter how strong a legendary realm expert was, they could not slaughter an army of 8 million well-trained troops. When quantity reaches a certain peak, a qualitative change occurs. This was the reason Cecil refused to retreat. I have sacrificed too much to lose now. Cecil gambles that I lack the strength to repeat my previous devastating attack, reasoning that if I could, the Eastern continent would have already fallen. Cecil clings to his remaining 5 million troops and the untouched Behemoth Legion as his trump card. I watch, slightly surprised. I wonder if Cecil has guessed my exhaustion. In truth, Cecil is terrified, but since retreat and continued battle both spell defeat, he chooses to fight to the death. By blind luck, Cecil makes the most tactical decision possible. Driven by Cecil's frantic commands, loyal officers force the reluctant orcs to continue the assault. Stimulated by the scent of blood, many orcs succumb to berserk rage, losing all reason. Howling and shrieking, the orcs launch a new, desperate charge toward the human lines. To me, the horizon is a sea of orcs, with 5 million soldiers flooding the 10,000-meter perimeter. The Behemoth Legion resumes its advance toward the city walls. Xinyu City looks like a fragile boat about to be capsized by the 8 million-strong tide of blood-crazed orcs. Despite my previous slaughter, the sheer number of remaining orcs is despairing. Lu Bu stares in disbelief, muttering that they have all gone mad. The orcs' willingness to charge after losing 3 million men proves why they are one of the 10 great races. Su Long, watching from the wall, worries that I am truly spent and unable to fight further. The defenders on the wall realize the Emperor Lord's bluff has failed. I had hoped to force a retreat with my display of power, but Cecil refused to yield. With 5 million orcs and the Behemoth Legion against fewer than 900,000 humans, the situation seems hopeless. Just as despair sets in and Su Long prepares to lead a rescue, I smile. I smirk. I always prepare for contingencies. While I may be drained, I am the Emperor Lord of the Yanhuang Empire. I never come alone. A roar echoes from the distance. Crimson airships appear on the horizon, rapidly approaching. The human soldiers look up, hope dawning as they recognize the crimson airships. Reinforcements, the soldiers cheer. Cecil turns in shock as the airships arrive. The fleet consists of H-001 Red Robe airships and larger troop transports. Flags bearing the 5-clawed Golden Dragon snap in the wind as 1,000 H-001 airships accelerate toward the behemoths and the orc vanguard. Su Nen orders the preparation of diffusion, incendiary, and bombardment energy bombs. Coordinates are locked, and the order to fire is given. Su Nen commands the fleet, supported by 100,000 human army guards and 100,000 specialized bombardiers. 100,000 energy bombs scream through the air toward the orc ranks. Cecil dismisses the falling black dots as mere stones, scoffing at the idea they could harm his army. Before he can finish the thought, the bombs impact. A series of deafening explosions erupts. Incendiary bombs engulf the behemoths in flames, causing them to collapse and crush their own ranks. Cecil gasps, stunned. The stones possess power rivaling a Baishui realm expert, devastating the infantry. Ordinary orcs below the Ninghun realm peak are obliterated instantly. Metal shrapnel from the bombs inflicts heavy casualties on the surrounding troops. The first wave alone wipes out 900,000 orcs. Long live the Emperor Lord. Cheers for the Crimson airships and the Yanhuang Empire erupt from Chinyu City. The human soldiers experience a roller coaster of despair and sudden salvation. Morale surges to unprecedented heights, while the orcs face a nightmare of relentless explosions. Between my sword intent and these bombs, the orcs wonder why the Yanhuang forces love explosions so much. Cecil screams for his troops to keep charging, his voice cracking. Lacking air support, the orc infantry are merely sitting ducks. The Yanhuang fleet denies Cecil any chance to overwhelm them with numbers. Sun In orders the second wave. Another 100,000 bombs rain down. The battlefield becomes a hell's cape of fire and carnage, shattering the orcs' psychological resolve. The low-level warriors are decimated by these strange, lethal devices. The orcs panic, wondering if this is divine retribution. Another 800,000 low-level orcs perish. Only those near the Baishui realm survive. Sun In orders the third wave. More bombs fall from the 1,000 airships. The explosions continue. 5 waves totaling 500,000 energy bombs, the result of Yanhuang's tireless production, devastate the field. Nearly 3 million low-level orcs are dead. The orc line collapses, and the remaining 2 million turn to flee. They scramble to escape, abandoning the siege. Cecil screams for his Baishui realm warriors to hold the line, but it is in vain. His commands are ignored. The orcs are broken, terrified of the humans' supernatural warfare. They view the Yanhuang soldiers as demons. Despair consumes the orcs. They abandon their loyalty and duty, desperate only to survive. The final 2 million orcs scatter in a rout that cannot be stopped. Cecil weeps, muttering that heaven has forsaken him. I show no mercy. The remaining large transport airships open their bays, deploying elite Yanhuang troops. The White Horse Eatzone, the Women's Army, and the Qin Army Legion descend like rain, cutting off the fleeing orcs. Every core Legion soldier, at least at the Baishui realm, found the 50-meter drop effortless. Seeing the 3 legions deploy, Su Long realized the tide had turned. Victory for the humans was certain. Su Long raised his sword, roaring, "For the Emperor Lord! For Yanhuang! Open the gates! Kill!" The cry echoed, followed by a thunderous chorus of "kill" from the troops. As gates swung open, the Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry and Black Jade Cavalry charged, weapons gripped tight, blood boiling with battle lust. 3 figures leaped from the Crimson airship, Hua Mulan, Bai Qi, and Zhao Zilong. The Yanhuang Empire had mobilized its full strength, including all legendary realm experts and the debut of energy bombs. My resolve to conquer the Orc Empire was absolute. Not even Prince Cecil could stand in my way. Zhao Zilong's mount trampled an orc general as he locked eyes with Cecil. Zhao Zilong of Yanhuang is here. He charged into the 2 million orcs, while a panicked Cecil ordered his guards to intercept him. Cecil recognized him as my former personal guard and a legendary human warrior. Being targeted by such a man was a death sentence. Retreat. Cecil abandoned his palanquin, mounted a horse, and fled in a frenzy. With the battle lost, survival was his only priority. 10,000 of the Beast Monarch's loyal guards turned to intercept Zhao Zilong, buying time for Cecil. These guards were all at the peak of the Baishui realm. "You cannot stop me," Zhao Zilong roared, leaping from his horse as his spear erupted with blinding gang qi. 100 birds facing the phoenix. He merged with his spear, becoming one. A massive, flaming phoenix manifested around him, its cry piercing the heavens. This was Zhao Zilong's ultimate technique. Boom! The phoenix's wings swept through the guards, causing them to explode upon contact. The Phantom continued its trajectory, rapidly closing in on the fleeing Cecil. Cecil looked back, his pupils shrinking as the burning phoenix engulfed him. A massive explosion left a crater where Cecil had been. Zhao Zilong emerged, holding his dragon gallbladder spear, upon which the charred head of Cecil was impaled. The enemy general is dead. Surrender and live. Zhao's voice was chilling. The sheer power of my general left the orcs in despair. The enemy general is dead. Surrender and live. Over 1 million Core Legion soldiers roared in unison, their voices shaking the blood-soaked battlefield. The atmosphere was one of overwhelming dominance. Orcs dropped their weapons, abandoning all hope of resistance or escape. The fight was over. With the Core Legions and 3 legendary experts present, the remaining 2 million orcs faced certain defeat. Escape was impossible against the Crimson airships and the 4 elite Yanhuang cavalry units. Pick up your weapons. Keep fighting. Some high-ranking orc officers screamed, desperately trying to rally their troops. Some even began slaughtering their own men to force them back into the fray. The orcs fled in terror from their own crazed commanders. Bai Qi and Zhao Zilong intervened, using their legendary strength to stop the internal massacre. Since Cecil was dead, these orcs would become Andrew's subjects. The generals would not allow them to be needlessly slaughtered. I, watching from the wall, asked Andrew, "Do you recognize those officers?" "Yes, they were my most loyal men, now turned into Cecil's puppets." Andrew was dejected, feeling he had failed my expectations. He had mismanaged the Empire, and had I not intervened, he would have died. "Your men?" I narrowed my eyes, realizing their betrayal had caused Andrew's defeat. Whoosh. I used the Wushuang Imperial throne to snatch a high-ranking orc officer. The soul-shattering realm Tiger Man struggled, hacking at me with his weapon. His blade could not penetrate the throne's Gangqi barrier, merely sparking against it. The orc's eyes were bloodshot, his aura violent and crazed. It wasn't a standard berserk state. He seemed possessed. I prepared to control him using the throne. System, scan this orc. A strange light emanated from my eyes, enveloping the orc. Scan successful. Data appeared on a screen only I could see. Name, Felix Mill. Age, 41. Strength, soul-shattering realm, level 5. Race, orc. Status, possessed, derived from a primitive demon contract. I was stunned by the mention of the demon contract. Demon contract. I muttered. Someone else possessed the same power he did, which was deeply unsettling. I wondered how this primitive version differed from my own and how Mr. Baiyin could optimize the system's version. I questioned the system, my mind filled with doubt. I had long been curious about the demon contract, but lacked the clearance to ask. Seeing it here suggested another system user had entered the 4 Directions continent. This was my immediate conclusion. It was the only explanation for the contract appearing on a common orc general. It also explained why these generals had betrayed Andrew. Host. The demon contract is a law-based power from the Abyss Plane, signed under the supervision of the Abyssal Will. The primitive version is unoptimized. It grants significant power boosts, but causes irreversible soul damage and erodes the sanity of non-demonic beings. The system-provided demon contract differs from the original. It causes no soul damage to non-demons and slowly enhances their intelligence and strength. It is an improved version created by a demon lord. Mr. Baiyin could modify these contracts because he is a demon lord himself, bolstered by the Abyss Plane's will. Further information is restricted due to insufficient host authority. The system revealed this previously hidden intelligence to me. Can you scan the origin of the original demon contract on him? I wondered if it was another system user or something else. The scan detected heavy abyssal energy, suggesting a 90% probability it originated from the Abyss Plane, likely created by a low-level demon lord without any system data residue. I felt relieved by this answer. As long as it wasn't another system user, I was safe. My contracts come from the system, which draws from myriad realms, but demon contracts are native to the Abyss. I realized that with abyssal forces entering the 4 Directions continent, I might face rivals using similar powers. The system's confirmation validated my earlier suspicions. The abyssal forces, having hidden under the Dao sect's nose, have begun their machinations on the continent. This is grim news. I now face the Dao sect, the Buddhist country, the martial Saint Pavilion, the Holy Seas Angels, and the chaotic evil Abyss Plane. I lamented why these high-plane powers were all converging on my four directions continent instead of elsewhere. I sighed, feeling weary. Regardless, I must prepare for inevitable contact with these factions, whether for self-preservation or other goals. I sensed that peaceful coexistence would be impossible. A hard war lies ahead. The battle ended as Zhao Zilong and Bai Qi wiped out the orc generals bound by the original demon contracts. Over 2 million elite orc soldiers surrendered and were taken prisoner. I tossed the orc general aside and flew back to the city. Kill him and handle the rest, I commanded. Understood. Zhao Zilong bowed to my retreating figure before executing the crazed orc general with his spear. You snatched the top merit this time. Bai Qi approached, bloodied blade in hand, gesturing toward the head of Prince Cecil with a grin. Zhao Zilong humbly deflected the praise, thanking Bai Qi and Hua Mulan for yielding the opportunity. Had they not stopped their pursuit to let Zhao Zilong finish the job, the credit might have gone elsewhere. Both Bai Qi's legendary realm strength and Hua Mulan's archery were formidable. The Yanhuang army began the process of processing, propagandizing, and pacifying the surrendered orcs alongside Andrew. Back in Xinyu City, I comforted Lu Bu and God of War Su Long. Su Long's strategic planning had successfully stalled 8 million orcs, buying time for my arrival. Lu Bu had fought 31 legendary realm orcs, boosting morale and showcasing the Yanhuang Empire's might. While both performed well, the near failure of the war remained a stain on their record. Though I offered comfort, both men knew their merits and faults had effectively canceled each other out. My leniency stemmed from my familial bond with Su Long and my general care for my subordinates. I ordered them to rest, leaving the city's affairs to Bai Qi. I then visited Andrew's temporary palace, where the beast monarch stood guard outside the study like a servant. Inside, Andrew's Foxman Empress served tea before quickly withdrawing. Andrew anxiously asked if the tea was ready. The Empress nodded, puzzled by her husband's extreme deference toward this human race emperor. Andrew had offered his finest tea and palace, even standing guard himself. Andrew instructed her to bring top human chefs to prepare spicy Yanhuang-style dishes, noting the emperor's preference. He nodded solemnly, emphasizing the importance of the task. The empress felt a mix of jealousy and curiosity. She wondered what made her husband fear this man, who seemed gentle and approachable rather than the tyrant rumors described. She left, while I reviewed the post-war system notifications. Victory achieved. 5.12 million enemies eliminated. Rating, perfect. Reward, 1 use of the Lord's altar and 5.12 million public support energy. 3.31 million elite orc soldiers captured and successfully converted to surrender. Benevolent and righteous monarch, trait triggered. 6.62 million additional public support energy gained. I was surprised to receive an additional free summon of a myriad realms general. Such rewards were rare at my current level. It was likely a bonus for successfully holding off a force 10 times his size until reinforcements arrived. The system recorded detailed war data, including battle logs and panoramic footage. I reviewed these after every campaign. A competent emperor must reflect on his actions to optimize his thinking and governance. This rigor is why the Yanhuang Empire continues to grow stronger. Beyond the immediate energy and summoning rewards, the long-term benefits were significant. The surrender of 3 million elite soldiers and the stabilization of Andrew's regime meant the Orc Empire was now effectively under my control. This was the primary reason I risked a personal campaign to save Andrew's regime. I checked my territory status. Yanhuang Empire, spanning 7 prefectures, Xintian City, and Great Demon Prefecture. Territory level, 3, 10 million public support energy for next level. Population, 56,067,055. Total empire, 160 million. Military, 5,000 Jinyui, 100,000 traversing camp, 100,000 Huban army, 100,000 Juga crossbowmen, 1 million Shin army, 100,000 White Horse Yitzhong, 200,000 Women's army, 100,000 Bingzhou Wolf cavalry. Public support degree, 100, worshipful. Public support energy, 13.06 million. Monthly gain, 5.6 million. Territorial structures, Lord's Altar, Tier 3 barracks, upgradable, System Blacksmith Shop, Energy Blender, Yanhuang Pavilion, and Tier 3 Emperor Statue, upgradable. With the population's public support at maximum, my monthly collection of public support energy is steadily increasing. With the Yanhuang Empire's current population and full public support, I generate 16 million public support energy monthly, a massive fortune. Despite the pressure from the higher plane, I remain confident in facing future threats. I currently hold a reserve of 13 million public support energy. I decide against upgrading the territory for now, opting to focus on the tech tree and strengthening the Empire's comprehensive power upon my return. After reviewing the data, I realize over an hour has passed. Andrew, Bai Qi, Zhao Zilong, and Hua Milan are waiting outside my study. I smile. It is time for the next phase. I cannot afford to linger in the Orc Empire much longer. Enter. At my command, the four enter, kneeling respectfully. Greetings, Emperor Lord. Long live the Emperor. Rise, I say, gesturing for them to sit. We thank the Emperor for the seats. The four sit on the edges of their chairs, poised to receive orders. Bai Qi, the battle report? I asked, sipping tea. Bai Qi rises. Total losses, 56,000 Bingzhou Wolf Riders, 5,600 Centaurs, 6,300 Black Jade Cavalry, 361 White Horse Yitzhong, 1,300 Qin Army soldiers, and 5,500 Women's Army. Total dead, 75,000. Wounded, 30,000. We annihilated 5.12 million Orc Legion soldiers and resurrected 3.31 million. Bai Qi's precise recall highlights his caliber as a general. This victory was achieved with only 75,000 losses against 8 million orcs, largely because I and Lu Bu eliminated all legendary realm experts. Furthermore, my Void Sword treasury and 500,000 energy bombs from the H-001 Red Robe airship decimated the enemy ranks. These factors were crucial to the easy victory. Good. Report the losses to the Ministry of War upon our return and have Huang Zhongyi replenish all legions to full strength. I nod calmly. The Empire prioritizes elite troops. Huang Zhongyi's efficient management of the Reserve Legion ensures the core legions remain fully supplied. Understood, the generals reply. Also, Zhao Zilong's slaying of Prince Cecil is a top merit. I am pleased. What reward do you desire? I smile at Zhao Zilong. Bai Qi and Hua Mulan look on with envy, not for the reward, but for the glory of such a feat. Serving the Emperor is my duty. I dare not ask for rewards, Zhao Zilong replies. I nod, noted. We shall reward you according to protocol back home. I move on to more pressing matters. Andrew. I am here. Andrew stands, showing no arrogance despite his status as Beast Monarch, maintaining his role as a loyal subject. Cecil is dead. The Orc Empire is yours, I state. Emperor, I have no desire to be Beast Monarch. If you wish, I will hand the entire empire over to you. Andrew kneels, trembling in his loyalty. As my demon servant, he feels only fear, not the thrill of power. Nonsense. Serving as Beast Monarch helps me. I console him. Annexing the Orc Empire now would alert the Eastern Continent's alien nations, especially while I still need to develop the Great Demon Prefecture. The Empire's reputation for just wars has earned it some goodwill. I wish to maintain this image. I do not want to shatter that perception. Without the threat of the higher plane, I would have annexed the orcs, but now I must remain low-key. I cannot afford to provoke the entire Eastern Continent while being watched by the higher plane. I intend to develop quietly, feigning weakness to buy time for growth. But I fear I am unfit for the position. Andrew worries. Andrew hesitates. Cecil's counterattack proved that some are born to rule. Even with my resources, Andrew barely survived the power struggle. He fears his incompetence will lead to disaster. Do not worry. I smile. I am forming the Yanhuang Alliance. The Orc Empire will be a key member, and I will send officials to assist you. I need Andrew as a puppet. The Orc Empire's administration must be staffed by human talent to ensure true loyalty to the Yanhuang Empire. Thank you, Emperor. Andrew kowtows in relief. With the war in Qianyu City over, Andrew stands as the sole Beast Monarch. The Yanhuang Empire has clearly triumphed over the Night Alliance, sparking mixed reactions across the continent. Many nations send envoys to congratulate the new Beast Monarch. I send Qingui with gifts and an imperial decree formally recognizing Andrew's regime. The Night Alliance, led by the Dark Knight Empire, spitefully refuses to recognize Andrew's legitimacy. This is absurd, as a foreign alliance has no say in the internal affairs of the Orc Empire. The Yanhuang and Orc empires ignore them, adhering to my mantra. Let them bark. If they aren't convinced, we fight. Half a month after Andrew's coronation, the Yanhuang Empire, the Orc Empire, and several allied duchies announced the formation of the Yanhuang Alliance. Scholars analyze this as the Yanhuang Empire's desperate attempt to huddle together for warmth against the Night Alliance. They believe the Yanhuang Empire is intimidated. Whether I am truly cowardly is unknown, but the alliance effectively deters the Night Alliance from further aggression. The two giants remain in a tense standoff. Yet, unknown to most, a powerful undercurrent stirs beneath the surface of the seemingly peaceful continent. Inside the Dark Knight Empire's Imperial Palace, in the Monarch's study, a shadowy figure sits in the seat that belongs to the Dark Knight Monarch. The noble Knight Monarch knelt trembling before the desk, not daring to look up or speak, his breathing ragged. Clearly terrified, the monarch stammered, "Appleton is here," in response to a cold, evil voice emanating from the shadows. 8 million Orc soldiers, massive supplies from the Night Alliance, and my 20 demon slaves. How could such a force lose? The shadow's voice chilled the bone. Is this your answer, Appleton? It is my fault. I accept punishment, the monarch whispered, trembling. You promised control of the Orc Empire if we backed Prince Cecil. Now my 20 demon slaves are dead. How do I answer to the Lord when he descends? Why didn't you send reinforcements? The shadow made a sharp, sudden sound. Uft. Appleton shrieked in agony, rolling on the floor, his imperial robes stained with dust. Though he silently resented that the shadow had forbidden reinforcements, he dared not speak, enduring the soul-searing pain with screams. Fortunately, the sound-dampening formation in the Imperial study prevented the guards from hearing his torment. After half an hour of torture, the shadow finally ceased. A minor warning. Remember, the Lord's orders must be fulfilled at any cost. Yes, Envoy. The monarch wheezed, struggling to his feet. Even as a legendary realm expert, he could not resist the soul-level agony. How is the preparation for that matter? The shadow asked. It is underway, exactly as planned, Appleton replied. He spoke with the submissiveness of a dog, terrified of further punishment. The second-ranked great emperor of the Eastern continent cowered before the shadow. Good. Prepare well. I intend to give those people, and the Lord, a grand surprise. The shadow let out a sinister, chilling laugh that filled the room with gloom. In the Yanhuang Empire's Imperial study, I received a system notification. Congratulations, you have gained 5.6 million public support energy this month. The alert interrupted my review of intelligence on the Eastern continent. Open territory info, I commanded. Seeing my total reach 18.6 million public support energy, I smiled. It was now the first month of the second year of the Yanhuang calendar. Looking out the window, I saw crimson airships drifting above a capital celebrating both victory and the new year. I lamented the lack of fireworks to mark the occasion. Because energy ore was a precious strategic resource, it was too expensive to use for civilian celebrations like fireworks. No one in the Empire but me could afford such extravagance. I sighed, then smiled again. With enough energy, I could advance the tech tree. System, open the tech tree. After careful consideration, I chose to unlock principles and production of generators. This would usher in the electrical age, enabling technologies like telephones and radio to drastically improve military communication and response times. While enemies relied on galloping horses, Yanhuang forces would communicate instantly via telephone. This would provide an intelligence advantage alongside massive benefits to the economy and military. System, unlock this branch. I declared. Unlocking principles and production of generators cost 15 million public support energy. The system confirmed. Command accepted. Energy sufficient. Unlocking. Success. I received all the data and designs for the generator. Summon the Minister of Works. Handing the blueprints to the minister, I ensured the ministry would be busy with new technological challenges. As the minister left, a servant announced, Empress Huine arrives. I was surprised by the late visit. Miss Ween entered, and the maids discreetly withdrew. Missing me already? I teased. Miss Ween blushed. You are such a rogue, husband. Her graceful, mature charm made my heart race. I pulled her close, marveling at her beauty. She truly possessed a beauty that eclipsed all others. Now, she carried the poise of the Empire's most noble empress. Husband, have you forgotten? She pouted with a hint of grievance. You promised to marry Manhwa, and she has been waiting for 2 months. This. I froze, feeling a pang of guilt. I had completely forgotten about marrying Princess Manhwa. The pressures of managing the vast Yanhuang Empire had kept me from the cunning palace and my personal affairs. Being an emperor was exhausting, and I had been entirely focused on statecraft. I felt guilty for neglecting my loyal consorts. They had supported me unconditionally, from the women's schools to the women's army. I realized I had spent far too little time with them. I have wronged you all, I said, stroking her hair. We are happy to help you, husband. We only worry about your exhaustion, she whispered. Poor Manhwa has been waiting so long without a word, she added. I realized my oversight. My promise to marry Manhwa to stabilize the great demon prefecture had been public knowledge. However, the development of steam engines, energy bombs, the emergence of higher plane powers, and the Orc War had pushed the wedding from my mind. For the current me, a political marriage had become a minor detail I had inadvertently set aside. Miss Ween gazed at me with melancholic eyes, remarking that Princess Manhwa had been pining for me daily. She sighed, wondering why every woman was so obsessed with me. Princess Manhwa was a talented musician and scholar, a truly exceptional artist. Suitors for her hand would stretch from the imperial capital to the great demon prefecture. I raised an eyebrow, wondering if Manhwa had truly fallen for me. Chuckling, I decided to have Chen-kun and Guo to handle the arrangements for her marriage. Miss Ween nodded, smiling, but asked if I would forget my old loves once I had a new one. I feigned shock, pulling her close to show her my devotion. When she protested that they were in the Imperial study, I declared my authority as the Emperor of Yanhuang. She reminded me that tonight was military advisor Nian's turn to serve me, and she couldn't steal that favor. I was stunned. I wondered when my harem had implemented a rotation system. I felt like a mere stud, but Miss Ween just urged me to go to Nian. Laughing at my frustration, she tapped my forehead and left the Imperial study like a breeze. As the Empress, she balanced my affections to ensure no concubine felt neglected. I sighed, joking that I had to play the impartial monk to capture the Nian enchantress. I stood up and ordered my carriage to Lanhua Palace. The Imperial Guard and Black Jade Cavalry knelt as I left. The night was spent in indulgence. I mused that my prowess was far beyond a mere golden needle. I preferred to describe the night as a fated, heavenly encounter. In truth, I had spent the night with military advisor Nian, a matter of state importance. The officials were desperate for an heir to secure the Yanhuang Empire's future. The next morning, refreshed, I headed to the court assembly. I finalized the Yanhuang alliance affairs and ordered Guoida to prepare betrothal gifts for Manhwa. Gong Chuyu, the new governor of Great Demon Prefecture, was overjoyed that his daughter would enter the palace. With the Orc Empire stabilized under Andrew, I had little to manage, as my officials handled the recovery. Urgent matters were managed by my appointed governors, while important reports came from Marquis Wu Zhuge and Chen-kun. I only needed to review and approve, enjoying a rare moment of leisure. After court, I visited Cunning Palace, though military advisor Nian was still resting from the previous night. Unin, the nine-tailed spirit fox, had grown plump, pampered by the women and fueled by my spirit pills. Looking at the fluffy, white creature, I thought it looked like a meatball. It looked more like a furry pig than a fox, leaving me puzzled by its appetite. Wondering if it had recovered, I used the system to scan it. Unin, juvenile nine-tailed spirit fox, legendary peak strength, 100% loyalty, and infatuated with the host. Skill, flame of the first tail, mastery of the Samadhi true fire, capable of burning all things. Talent, way of the nine tails, increases cultivation speed and mental clarity ninefold for itself and those nearby. I was shocked. The creature was already at the legendary peak despite being a juvenile. A juvenile nine-tailed fox with golden core strength was truly a transcendent immortal seed. I wondered what the other 8 tales would bring. I recalled that the Samadhi true fire was one of the 10 primordial divine fires. These fires were the original sources of energy across all planes. I looked forward to seeing Innat's full potential once it matured. I teased the fox, noting it was now stronger than me. I picked up the fruit-munching fox to inspect it. Innan squeaked in protest. It covered its vitals with its paws, looking at me with shy, pleading eyes. I was speechless at the fox's display of modesty. I reminded it that it was just a fox, not a human yet. Miss Ween scolded me for potentially hurting the creature. I sighed, knowing I couldn't possibly hurt a creature stronger than myself. I felt a pang of sadness that my own strength lagged behind the fox. Lingener comforted the fox with more fruit. I watched, twitching, as the fox continued to gorge itself. I remarked that Innan needed to go on a diet. The women disagreed, claiming the chubby fox was adorable. Princess Mingzhu pouted, defending the fox. They all loved the round, fluffy creature. Innan nodded in agreement with the princess. It wanted to continue its life of eating, sleeping, and playing. I sighed, joking that I was raising a fat version of Dodgy. Innan defiantly swallowed a grape to spite me. The women laughed, and I enjoyed the view. After breakfast, I returned to the Imperial study. I remembered I had one use of the Lord's altar remaining and planned to summon a new general. In the study, I commanded the system to open the altar. The study was the quietest place in the palace, restricted to all but me. A flash of light erupted. The system interface projected a 3D image of the Lord's altar, its mysterious runes pulsing with enigmatic energy. I still didn't understand the altar's mechanics, and the system remained tight-lipped due to my current clearance level. Shaking off my doubts, I commanded, "System, initiate the summoning of myriad realms generals." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The altar's runes spun, coalescing into a swirling vortex of light that projected vivid, flickering images before me. In Yinshan, a violent thunderstorm raged. A middle-aged man urged his followers to take cover. Lightning snakes danced across the sky, and the heavy clouds felt as if they were collapsing onto the earth. As the followers shouted warnings, a deafening thunderclap shook the mountains and shattered the peaks. Terrified, the group huddled together until the storm passed and the sun returned. The middle-aged man sighed. The lightning heralds the arrival of a star of war. Find it. Who is this star? Where should we look? Hearing a child crying near an ancient tomb, the group investigated and found an infant. They decided to present it to their leader. They brought the child to the middle-aged man. Seeing the radiant infant, the man rejoiced, viewing it as the 100th son he was destined to have. He ordered the child to be fostered, intending to retrieve him in 7 years. The next image showed the child grown. He had grown wings, a blue face, red hair, and protruding fangs, a terrifying, monstrous appearance. Lightning crackled around his wings, exuding immense power. An old man stood behind him. "Go to Lintong Pass to save your father," the elder instructed. "Do not linger, do not harm the king's soldiers, and return to Mount Zhongnan once the task is done." The elder gave his final warnings. The winged youth bowed. "I shall obey." The scenes shifted rapidly. Vast armies and warring gods filled the horizon. Cultivators clashed, using immortal formations to move mountains and drain seas as sects fought to preserve their legacies. I was stunned to recognize the figures appearing in the projections. A boy on wind and fire wheels, and a handsome general with a third eye holding a long halberd. A stern commander holding a golden pagoda. The apocalyptic scale of the war left my expression increasingly strange. The altar is connected to that plane. My luck is truly unmatched. I muttered. I stared at the winged man, realizing I had summoned someone from a top-tier plane. Even a common soldier from that world likely dwarfed Zhao Zilong or Bai Qi. The altar continued to display the winged man's life. He saved his father at 7, terrified enemy armies, and fought his way through the 10,000 immortal formation. Finally, the man achieved a holy body and became a heavenly general. In the final frame, he looked directly into my eyes. I felt the man's gaze pierce through the altar's seal. I had been discovered. I was stunned. I had never expected a summoned entity to perceive me. I sighed, choosing to meet the man's gaze calmly. Across the river of time and space, their gazes locked. Trusting the system's power, I remained silent, holding the connection. Could such a powerful, holy being truly become my subordinate? The standoff lasted for half an hour. Finally, the winged man turned away and exhaled a breath of immortal energy, which transformed into a younger version of himself. The image vanished. Ding! Congratulations, you have summoned a myriad realms general. I quickly checked the details. Name, Zhenzi. Age, 16. Race, human/demon. Loyalty, 100. Quality, divine general. Strength, nascent soul stage peak. Skill, heavenly thunder judgment. Deals lightning damage with splash effects and random debuffs like paralysis. Call of 10,000 thunders. AoE lightning attack that guarantees paralysis. Heavenly Tao thunder punishment. A single target strike at 150% power. Talent, thunder body. Boosts lightning damage against humanoids. Reduces magic damage taken by 50% and grants immunity to mental control. Traceless stealth. Grants aerial stealth, increased vision, and movement speed. Item, Wind and Thunder Staff. An acquired spiritual treasure. I was confused. Why was a legendary figure only at the nascent soul stage? System, did I fail to summon the real Zhenzi? I questioned the system immediately. While the stats were strong, they lacked the military depth of my other generals. This was clearly a combat-focused cultivator. I felt disappointed compared to the holy version I had seen. The system responded. Due to low territory level, the altar could only summon the young Zhenzi. I recalled the breath of immortal energy the adult Zhenzi had exhaled. The system's low level had allowed the holy Zhenzi to detect it. I panicked, fearing I had only summoned a temporary breath of energy. The system clarified. The target tried to trick the altar with that breath, but the system intercepted it, creating a new timeline to successfully summon the youth. I marveled at the system's dominance. Even a holy being couldn't outsmart it. I regretted not upgrading my territory sooner, wondering if it would have allowed me to summon Zhenzi in his prime. A true thunder god and immortal, Zhenzi would make the Immortal Palace, Dao Sect, and Abyss look like mere trifles. I realized that even with an upgrade, summoning a prime Zhenzi was unlikely. I accepted the outcome. A youthful Zhenzi was acceptable, and the summon proved the system's immense power. The system's ability to bridge timelines and pull individuals into the Four Directions continent was a feat of power rivaling that of saints. I wondered, could this young Zhenzi still achieve his legendary flesh-body sanctification? Previous summons were already at their peak, possessing potential but lacking room for further growth. Zhenzi was different. Without the investiture of the gods or his master Yanhuang, how would he grow? I realized I was being greedy, wanting more than just a nascent soul stage subordinate. The system explained that because this was a special summon, it had preloaded Zhenzi's soul with his prime skills, talents, and Taoist magic, allowing him to grow into his full potential over time. The system's voice echoed. This user-friendly setting meant Zhenzi only needed to comprehend the preloaded knowledge to reach his peak. I was thrilled. The summon was a massive success. I then asked about the acquired spirit treasure classification of the Wind and Thunder Staff. I continued my inquiry. As this was my first cultivator summon, the terminology was unfamiliar. The system explained these were standard classifications across the various cultivation, immortal, demon, and devil planes. Treasures are ranked: Innate Supreme, Innate Spirit, Acquired Dermic, and Acquired Merit Supreme. The latter requires great merit to nurture and can rival Innate Supreme treasures. The system provided detailed data and examples. The most powerful are the three Innate Supreme treasures: the Panga Banner, Taiji Diagram, and Chaos Bell, derived from the Heaven-Opening Sacred Artifact. Other top-tier weapons include the Qianquan Cauldron and Zhuxian Sword Formation. Innate Spirit treasures, like the Investiture of the Gods, are numerous and vary in power. Acquired Spirit treasures include the Heaven-Turning Seal, Xianyuan Sword, and various natal treasures of the demon race. Their effectiveness depends heavily on the wielder's strength. Acquired Dermic treasures are common items for cultivators. Acquired Merit Supreme treasures are unique, forged with great merit, and can be as powerful as Innate Supreme treasures. Examples include the Heaven and Earth Xianhuang Linglong Pagoda and the personal weapons of saints like Lier. These treasures offer miraculous abilities, from immunity to karma to suppressing the destiny of the 9 provinces. The complexity of these treasures far surpassed the weapons of the Four Directions continent. The Four Directions continent was merely a high martial plane, lacking the depth of higher cultivation worlds. I was fascinated, having always been curious about cultivation culture. The system confirmed that as my territory level rose, I could exchange for these treasures in the mall, even innate supreme ones, provided I had enough public support energy. Acquired merit supreme treasures, however, would require me to accumulate merit personally. 2 hours passed while I studied the data, nearing lunchtime. A Zhenzi reported that a winged youth, resembling the winged race, had arrived at the palace seeking to serve the emperor. I was overjoyed. My Zhenzi has arrived. The system's efficiency was impressive. I then realized a potential issue. If future summons were all at Zhenzi's level, would generals like Bai Qi, Zhao Zilong, and Marquis Wu Zhuge become obsolete? I voiced my concern to the system, worried about the value of my investment. Summoning cost 1 million public support energy. I didn't want to waste it. The system provided a solution. The system explained that I could use pills from the mall to break the legendary peak limit for my mortal generals, with more growth functions unlocking as the territory leveled up. I nodded in satisfaction. As long as my veteran generals could grow, I was content. Their strategic genius remained unmatched by the cultivators, making them indispensable. I went to the palace gates to find the youth in white armor and an orange cape surrounded by the Imperial Guard. The soldiers were wary, fearing the strange, winged figure might be an assassin. I approached and inspected the man. Zhenzi looked bizarre. Blue skin, red hair, bulging eyes, protruding tusks, Tuzhong height, and fleshy wings, clutching a golden staff. He was ugly, but I cared only for his combat prowess. Zhenzi introduced himself. The system had provided him with a backstory as a mountain cultivator who transformed after eating a strange fruit, now seeking to serve the emperor. I gladly accepted him. Lu Bu, Bai Qi, and others arrived, curious about the new recruit. Seeing his monstrous appearance, they followed tradition and challenged him to a spar. I encouraged the match, while Zhenzi remained obedient. At the drill ground, I ordered Lu Bu, Bai Qi, and Zhao Zilong to face Zhenzi together. They hesitated, but Zhenzi soon demonstrated the power of a cultivator. With lightning flashing and electric currents paralyzing the air, Zhenzi overwhelmed the 3 generals. Only Zhenzi's restraint prevented their swift defeat. The spar ended, leaving the generals in awe and me beaming with delight. Zhenzi has joined the Yanhuang Empire, becoming its most powerful combatant. As a cultivator, he possesses the rare ability to grow stronger through independent practice. I appointed him as a personal bodyguard, bypassing the need for a military command. Given Zhenzi's specialized skills as a cultivator, his individual prowess far outweighs any potential talent for leading armies. This role allows me to deploy him flexibly on the battlefield, keeping him as a hidden trump card for the Empire. Following the generals' competition, I returned to the palace to handle state affairs and spend time with the Empress. I researched the classification of magical treasures and cultivators, specifically checking the standing of my True Emperor Sword and True Emperor Scroll. The results were startling. The system revealed the True Emperor Scroll is a supreme cultivation manual capable of elevating a mortal to the level of a saint. My innate supreme Tao body is the perfect vessel for this path. In contrast, the True Emperor Sword is merely an innate spiritual treasure, and its full potential remains locked due to my current lack of cultivation strength. I sighed, briefly disappointed that the sword wasn't an innately supreme treasure. Realizing my greed, I accepted my fortune. Over the next month, the Yanhuang Empire entered a period of rapid development. Using my provided blueprints and academic textbooks, the Ministry of Works mastered the theoretical foundations of electrical engineering. Generators were designed to convert various energy sources, water, steam, fuel, or nuclear fission, into mechanical energy, and finally into electricity. Building upon their experience with steam engines, the craftsmen successfully constructed the first generator. This initial prototype was a hydroelectric model, successfully converting water's kinetic energy into electricity. Though the first model was bulky, the craftsmen spent the second month refining it. They developed generator sets and expanded into thermal, wind, and steam-powered variants, distinguishing between DC and AC currents. Most impressively, they integrated alchemy, energy ores, and monster crystal cores to create highly efficient, stable power sources. I prioritized these for public welfare and industry, establishing factories and automated assembly lines, starting with electric lighting. I ordered a nationwide power grid, aiming to replace steam engines with electricity within 6 months to drastically boost productivity. Remarkably, this transition allowed the empire to advance technologically while remaining environmentally clean. I was immensely satisfied. With Zhuge Liang's political guidance, public support across the 7 prefectures, Xintian City, and the Great Demon Prefecture soared. The population with maximum public support degree grew from 50 million to 70 million in just 2 months. I accumulated over 17 million public support energy points, providing me with a massive reserve. Before I could decide how to utilize these resources, a new event demanded my attention. The time had come for me to marry Princess Manhwa of the former Human Duchy. The announcement sparked nationwide celebrations across the Yanhuang Empire. The people of the Great Demon Prefecture were particularly relieved. By marrying Manhwa, I fulfilled my promise, signaling my benevolence toward the former duchy's citizens. Amidst the festivities, I wryly remarked to Miss Ween, "I have another wife now." Miss Ween teased me, but I laughed, acknowledging my good fortune. 3 days later, the wedding ceremony commenced. To respect Manhwa and her people, the ceremony was held with high, though secondary, imperial specifications. Following the ceremony, I hosted a banquet for officials and foreign envoys, officially naming Manhwa as a noble consort. Envoys from the Yanhuang alliance presented lavish gifts. Andrew, through his attendance, gifted 7 legendary realm monster crystal cores and mining rights to 3 veins within the Orc Empire. The magnitude of this gift shocked the court. While outsiders saw this as Andrew pledging loyalty, I and my inner circle knew it was a prearranged move. The wedding served as a cover for Yanhuang officials to enter the Orc Empire and begin a covert takeover. Other envoys followed suit, offering gold, supplies, and laborers. While some gifts were primitive, they still provided significant value to the empire. I mused that the tradition of wedding banquets was indeed a lucrative endeavor. The morning after the wedding, I appeared at the court assembly, refreshed and confident. The 100 tribes' envoys gathered to offer their blessings. After routine domestic matters, the floor was opened to the envoys. Lorenzo Hobbs, envoy of the Orc Empire, stepped forward to convey the Beast Monarch's well wishes for the empire's prosperity and the alliance's strength. Lorenzo bowed with extreme reverence. I waved him off, asking for his specific request. I found the envoy's honeyed words amusing. I enjoyed the flattery, provided my subordinates remained competent and loyal. Lorenzo knelt and spoke respectfully. He noted the Beast Monarch's interest in Yanhuang's miraculous generators and factory production lines. He pleaded for me to share these technologies to help the Orc Empire recover from its civil war. Lorenzo spoke fluent human language with a distinct Imperial accent, showing his admiration for Yanhuang. His request caused the other foreign envoys to tense up, watching me with bated breath. Alien envoys arrived with a shared agenda to acquire the Yanhuang Empire's revolutionary technology. The Empire's recent progress has been meteoric, shifting from a steady jog to the speed of a legendary realm master in flight. Every nation covets the technological system that has bolstered the Empire's national strength across all sectors. As members of the Yanhuang Alliance, these envoys believe they are entitled to be the first to access this core technology. In any era, whoever controls core technology and military superiority holds the ultimate power. The Yanhuang Empire is now the undisputed king of the Eastern continent, and everyone seeks its favor. I sighed, noting that while I value the alliance, the immense resources and labor invested in these inventions make them costly to produce. If I simply gave them away, my officials and citizens would never forgive me, I lamented. I feigned helplessness, playing the part of a leader bound by my people's will. Zhuge Liang, Chen Kun, and Guoda immediately knelt, pleading with the emperor not to give away the empire's core assets. Guoda wept dramatically, claiming that gifting these fruits of the people's labor would break the hearts of the populace. Guoda's performance was worthy of a professional actor. While the artisans worked hard, the common citizens were actually the primary beneficiaries, not the victims, of this technology. I remained silent, amused that the envoys were completely taken in by the act. The envoys panicked, realizing that if the officials were this protective, the technology must be even more precious than they imagined. Despite the setback, Lorenzo refused to give up. Lorenzo countered that the friendship between the Empire and the Alliance outweighed the value of the goods, praising my legendary generosity. He insisted the Orc Empire was in dire need and hoped the Emperor would not stand idly by. Empty words, Guoda sneered. Why should we hand over our greatest treasures for nothing? Guoda's emphasis on greatest treasures only intensified the envoys' desire to possess them. They realized how far behind they had fallen compared to Yanhuang's advanced social structure. Lorenzo laughed, offering to represent the beast monarch and pay a heavy price for the divine artifacts. The envoys realized that if they couldn't get them as gifts, they could trade for them. My eyes narrowed as I shifted my stance. Oh, and what can you offer? I asked, sparking hope among the envoys. None of them realized they were walking straight into a trap. Lorenzo offered 5 remaining energy or veins, 30 tons of energy ore, and 50 tons of monster crystal cores. These were the exact strategic resources the Yanhuang Empire prioritized in trade. Lorenzo's offer was massive, demonstrating the Orc Empire's desperation and wealth. The envoys and officials were stunned by the sheer scale of the Orcs' offer. Including the veins gifted at the wedding, the Orcs were handing over every single mine they possessed. These included 2 high-yield veins that ranked among the top 5 in the Eastern continent. An irresistible temptation for me. I admitted I was tempted by the offer. The Orc Empire shows great sincerity, I said, my face unreadable behind my crown. Lorenzo waited anxiously for the terms. Lorenzo wondered why the beast monarch was so confident Suyu would agree to such a deal. I can provide them, I stated. But one mine only buys 1 steam engine, and 10 tons of, or buys 1 production line. I delivered the terms with cold indifference. Lorenzo was shocked. At that rate, he would only get 8 of each, a pittance compared to the Empire's thousands. He tried to negotiate for more. Chen Kun cut him off, mocking him for treating steam engines like toys and calling him an ignorant savage. Lorenzo humbled himself, asking for an explanation. Chen Kun explained that a single small military factory with 1 steam engine and 1 line could produce 100,000 Ninghuntier armors per month. He handed Lorenzo the official data report. Lorenzo gasped as he read the figures. 100,000 units a month with a failure rate under 100, operated by only 1,000 workers? Normally, a master craftsman would take 3 days to forge just 1 such armor. To match that output, 1,000 masters would have to work nonstop for 10 months. Most nations didn't even have 10 master craftsmen, let alone 1,000. Even if they did, no human could work without rest for 10 months. Chen Kun noted that the quality was perfectly consistent across every piece. He ordered 2 sample armors brought out for inspection. The envoys marveled at the identical craftsmanship, arcs, and angles. They were genuinely shaken by the sheer power of this technology. They had never imagined such uniformity. Even the best masters produced variations and defects. It was impossible for any craftsman, even a God Tier 1, to guarantee such perfection, yet the machines achieved it effortlessly. Machines are different. With intact molds and production lines, one can mass-produce millions of identical, high-quality units with minimal defect rates. Lord Chen, how is this achieved? Lorenzo asked, deeply impressed by the Yanhuang Empire's steam engines and production lines. Beyond quality, the key is quantity. In wars of attrition, a nation capable of producing 100,000 sets of armor, weapons, and arrows monthly holds a massive advantage. Compared to a nation relying on manual craftsmanship for only a few thousand pieces, the victor is obvious. War is a matter of logistics, Chen Kun explained. We have master craftsmen break down the production process, create precise molds, and use assembly lines for casting and material fusion. Chen Kun smiled. May I ask, Emperor Lord, if the Orc Empire purchases these, what about the molds? Lorenzo hesitated, knowing the molds were the most critical component. They are included. I leaned back on my throne, waving lazily. Buy a production line, get the full set of molds, plus 100 skilled workers to train your people. The Emperor is generous. Long live the Emperor. Lorenzo cheered. 100,000 sets a month with minimal waste, requiring only 1,000 workers. It was invincible. This explained Yanhuang's dominance. Their logistics surpassed the entire eastern continent combined. However, I considered the potential risks of revealing such technology. Such power would inevitably invite envy from other great powers, so I had a plan. Emperor, I wish to exchange for 8 lines. 2 for armor, 2 for weapons, 2 for arrows, and 2 for civilian tools, Lorenzo declared. Granted. I scanned the envious envoys. Since you now know the power of the steam engine, all nations in the Yanhuang alliance may exchange for them, following the Orc Empire's rates. The envoys cheered, kneeling in gratitude. Long live the Emperor. The Emperor is generous. I watched with a cold glint in my eyes. Was I generous? To them, perhaps. My smile remained icy behind my beaded crown. Opening sales was my calculated solution. I couldn't hide the technology forever. Other nations had already noticed the Yanhuang Empire's rapid growth. The surge in Yanhuang's exports and productivity was impossible to ignore. Rather than hiding, it was better to trade the technology for resources Yanhuang urgently needed. This would create a new revenue stream and reduce hostility, turning potential enemies into grateful clients. As for generators, those were strictly forbidden to outsiders, as their impact far exceeded that of steam engines. I would only provide the most basic, outdated steam engines, which were still sufficient to achieve the promised results. I would never provide blueprints or theory, only finished products with limited lifespans. Once they broke, these nations would be forced to return to Yanhuang for more. This was a gentle method to drain their resources and expand Yanhuang's power without them realizing it. Once addicted to the convenience of these machines, they would become dependent on Yanhuang. I was using a technological soft blade to harvest their wealth, building the strength needed for eventual unification. This was technological monopoly and capitalist imperialism. Cruel, but in international relations, only interests matter. By controlling the core technology, I could hold the lifeblood of other races, engaging in high-priced dumping and resource plundering. To me, other races were merely sheep. I was confident they could never reverse engineer the technology. If they wanted to try, they could buy my textbooks on mathematics, physics, and chemistry first. Without the foundational knowledge, they would need 2,000 years to transition from a feudal to a technological society. While the steam engine wasn't inherently complex, it was a brand new concept to the Four Directions continent. Even with countless geniuses, it would take them years to grasp the manufacturing process. By then, Yanhuang would likely have entered the information age. The envoys were already scrambling to scrape together resources for their own orders. They didn't realize they were begging for the outdated surplus stored in Yanhuang's warehouses. These units were functional but flawed. It wasn't shameless, it was recycling. When the human race was weak, no one showed mercy. Now that they were strong, there was no need to be a fair merchant. An emperor prioritizes the state above all. Zhuge Liang watched, his eyes flashing with understanding. As a political genius, he saw the immense benefits of the emperor's strategy. It was a brilliant move, strengthening Yanhuang, weakening the others, and neutralizing potential greed. 3 birds with 1 stone. I silenced the arguing envoys. Chen Kun and Zhuge Liang will handle this. 1 mine for a steam engine, 10 tons of energy, or monster crystal cores for a production line, including 200 workers and molds. Understood. Chen Kun and Zhuge Liang stepped forward. An envoy hesitated. Speak, I commanded. Great Emperor, many nations lack the Orc Empire's wealth. My people live by the lakes and cannot provide such vast quantities of ore. The envoy knelt, begging for an alternative. He represented the half-frogmen, a small, non-combatant race with limited resources. Greedy, Chen Kun muttered. Great Emperor, we have always been loyal followers. Please remember our aid against the Dark Knight Alliance. The envoy looked up, desperate. They needed the technology to produce daily necessities and avoid falling behind the rest of the continent. Without it, they would inevitably face extinction. I nodded. Granted, you may pay with other equivalent goods, materials, or labor. The half-frogmen were skilled in aquaculture, and this concession would bolster Yanhuang's reputation. Thank you, Emperor. You are the sun that shines upon all. The envoy wept with joy, kowtowing repeatedly. If other duchies lack, or they may trade other goods under the half-frogman principality's policy. Do not substitute inferior goods. Discovery will result in the loss of trading rights. I glanced calmly at the half-frogman envoy and continued. Beyond aquatic products, the Empire requires livestock from the Bit people and pearls from the Clamfolk. A nation's strength relies on more than just energy ores and monster crystal cores. We thank the Emperor for his grace. The envoys were overjoyed, kneeling to thank me, viewing my policy as a divine blessing. I smiled at the grateful alien envoys. While the reality was more complex than they realized, the envoys felt they had secured a great deal. Instead of merely selling finished tools, the Yanhuang Empire had sold them the very means of production. It was a lesson in teaching them to fish, though some envoys secretly mocked me as a fool. Time would tell if my move was foolish. The court assembly concluded, and the officials bowed as the emperor departed. Once I left, Chen Kun and Zhuge Liang were swarmed by envoys eager to curry favor before departing. It was noon, and having married Manhua the previous night, I headed to Qinghuan Palace instead of the Imperial study. Qinghuan Palace was the residence I had bestowed upon noble consort Manhua. As the inner palace was a restricted area, Wang Zhe and Lei Zhenzi remained stationed outside. I walked with several maids, waving off their attempt to hold an umbrella for me. The early spring sun is life-giving. I need no shade, I remarked, strolling toward the palace. The maids complied. Even a powerful emperor needed the sun. Peach blossoms bloomed along the path, filling the air with a pleasant fragrance. Before reaching the palace, I heard the delicate sound of a zither. The music was clear and ethereal, like a mountain spring or a lover's soft whisper. The emperor arrives, the maids announced as they opened the palace doors. The music ceased. I sighed with regret. The melody had been as captivating as Miss Huayine's, yet possessed a unique, spirited charm. The main bedroom door creaked open. Manhua hurried out to greet me, followed by her attendants. I was struck by her beauty. She appeared even more charming and delicate after our wedding night. Her hair was loosely pinned with a golden hairpin. Her skin was naturally porcelain white, and her lips were as red as berries. The coral and red jade jewelry I had gifted her shimmered against her pale, delicate wrists. Dressed in a yellow gown with a green cloak, she exuded a graceful, alluring charm. I greet the emperor, Manhua said with a soft bow. Rise, I replied. I stepped forward to support her, asking gently, Why are you up? You should be resting. I am used to labor, and I awoke after the dawn, Manhua replied. She smiled shyly, her eyes and lips revealing the newfound radiance of a woman recently wed. Manhua was a diligent woman who had managed her family's household. With little to do in the palace, she spent her time playing the zither. Though deeply attached to me, she was sensible enough not to monopolize my time. She understood that I belonged to the Empire and the human race as much as I belonged to her. I dismissed the maids with a wave. You are my woman now. I won't have you overworking yourself. You must listen to me. I playfully tapped her nose and carried her toward the bed, asking if she had finished her tonic. Yes, I have, she replied. Manhua buried her head in my chest, feeling a profound sense of peace and security. I spent the entire morning with her, even refusing a request from the Empress to dine at Cunning Palace. They shared lunch in the palace, with me feeding her porridge, allowing her to fully enjoy my affection. It was a simple, warm moment, the kind she had always dreamed of. She felt that this half-day of my company was worth any price. The maids from her former household were relieved to see the emperor's favor. They hoped this meant she would be safe in the palace. They did not realize that with the Su family's grace and Minghua's gentle nature, she would never face conflict. The pleasant time passed quickly after lunch. I reflected that there were no urgent memorials requiring my attention. Just as I considered staying longer, a palace official arrived to report. Emperor, Wang Zhe reports that the Jinyui have received word. An envoy from the Dark Knight Alliance is waiting at the post station for an audience. The Dark Knight Alliance? I frowned. Why would they send an envoy now? Was it about the steam engines and production lines? That seemed premature. My plan was to wait until the Yanhuang Alliance demonstrated the full power of their production before others grew envious. As I pondered, Manhua set aside her zither and urged me. State affairs are important. Please do not let me delay you. Understood. I stroked her hair and stood up, ordering. Prepare the carriage for the Imperial study. Summon the envoy. I wanted to see what Appleton was truly planning. The official bowed and signaled for the carriage. I departed the inner palace, with Wang Zhe and Lei Zhenzi falling in to guard me. Shortly after I left, Empress Huyen arrived with her entourage. My consort, Miss Huyen, worked tirelessly to help Manhua integrate into our family, fostering a warm and harmonious atmosphere within Qinghuan Palace. Outside the Imperial study, Wang Zhe and Lei Zhenzi stood guard like two immovable door gods. Soon, Chun Kun arrived accompanied by an official from the Dark Knight race, identifiable by his pale skin, vertical cat-like pupils, and a fleshy tail. Chun Kun knelt before the study, kowtowing respectfully. Chun Kun brings an envoy from the Dark Knight race to seek an audience with the Emperor Lord. The envoy initially intended a simple bow, but one glare from the fierce, fanged Lei Zhenzi terrified him into dropping to his knees as well. Enter, my calm voice echoed from within. Chun Kun rose, Lei Zhenzi opened the doors, and Chun Kun gestured for the envoy to proceed. I am to go in alone, the envoy asked nervously. Facing the leader of the human race, the Dark Knight Empire's greatest rival, left the envoy trembling with anxiety. Hurry, do not keep the Emperor Lord waiting. Wang Zhe barked. The envoy swallowed hard and stepped inside. Sunlight slanted across the desk where I, a young, handsome human man, sat reviewing memorials, my sharp eyes radiating the vitality of a true sovereign. Cornelius Delan of the Dark Knight Empire pays respects to the Emperor Lord. Cornelius knelt and kowtowed. I replied, rise. I looked up, my tone languid. Tell me, what is your monarch's intention in sending you to Yanhuang? Reporting to the Emperor Lord, Cornelius stood and bowed. His Majesty hopes you will attend the Myriad Races auction in Xintian City next month. He reverently presented a black invitation. I frowned, surprised it wasn't about steam engines. I opened the invitation. It contained a flowery plea for peace, suggesting the auction, co-hosted by the Knight Alliance and Xintian Pavilion, aimed to settle the conflicts plaguing the Eastern continent. The text was dense and filled with grand, impassioned rhetoric. I found the Dark Knight monarch's motives obscure and suspicious. Why invite me personally to a mere auction? I tapped my desk, deep in thought. I knew Xintian City was supposedly neutral, controlled by Xintian Pavilion, but my intelligence suggested otherwise. I was certain two higher plane forces operated here, the Immortal Palace Dao Gate behind Xintian Pavilion, and a demon lord from the Abyss Plane linked to the Knight Alliance. Their sudden collaboration to invite me felt like a potential trap. Yet, I reasoned that if they truly wanted me dead, their superior strength would make such elaborate schemes unnecessary. They could simply wait for their masters to descend and sweep the Four Directions continent. Why bother plotting against a mere mortal emperor? I understood my position. To higher plane entities, I was likely no more than an ant. A strong ant might pique curiosity, but it would never inspire fear. From the memories of the Disc Boy, I knew the Immortal Palace Dao Gate style. They were arrogant, ruthless, and took what they wanted without resorting to petty conspiracies. Would such powerful cultivators truly waste effort plotting against a lower world emperor? It seemed impossible, as did a genuine alliance between the Knight Alliance and Xintian Pavilion. The Immortal Palace Dao Gate and the Abyss forces were clearly not partners. If I were an abyssal demon lord, I would never let the Immortal Palace Dao Gate discover my presence. Thus, Xintian Pavilion likely didn't know the Abyss had infiltrated the Knight Alliance. If they weren't targeting me, what was their goal? Cornelius wiped sweat from his brow, feeling the immense pressure of my silence. As a mere messenger, he knew little beyond his instructions. Which races are participating, and who received invitations? I finally asked. Relieved, Cornelius explained that the auction aimed to plan the future of the Eastern continent, with invitations sent to all race leaders, as well as Yanhuang's top martial and Qingdao talents. He added that it also aimed to establish new trade routes and economic cooperation. Cornelius recited the official script provided by his monarch. I realized two things. The Knight monarch feared Yanhuang's economic dominance and wanted to replicate it, and the inclusion of talents suggested a link to the path of 10,000 clan genius. Whether it was about trade or the path, these were matters of grave concern. The collaboration between the Knight Alliance and Xintian Pavilion was the core issue. I lacked deep knowledge of the path, as the Disc Boy was only a minor disciple. Was it a literal path, a ritual, or a method for higher planes to harvest resources and select disciples? I didn't know the truth, but I knew the higher plane masters hadn't fully descended yet. The plane barrier remained, giving me time to uncover the truth before the full invasion rendered Yanhuang helpless. I hoped to stop their descent entirely, but wondered why they would waste time on an auction if they could just break the barrier. A sudden realization struck. Perhaps the auction and the path were the keys to their full arrival. The collaboration between the two opposing higher plane factions must be connected to this grand scheme. Otherwise, Xintian Pavilion would never cooperate with the Knight Alliance. I have another question, I said, cutting off the envoy's rehearsed speech. Speak, Emperor, Cornelius said, bowing respectfully. Is the Myriad Races auction led by Xintian Pavilion? Is the Dark Knight Alliance the organizer or merely an assistant? I stared intensely at Cornelius. The distinction was vital. Cornelius blinked, finding the terminology novel but easy to grasp. The Dark Knight Alliance is only assisting. Xintian Pavilion is the true organizer. They sought the Alliance's influence to draw more prodigies and emperors from the Eastern continent. Cornelius spoke frankly, knowing this was no secret to a man of my reach. As expected, Xintian Pavilion is behind this. The Abyss forces behind the Dark Knight Alliance must be probing their true intentions. I muttered to myself, eyes narrowing. Confirming Xintian Pavilion as the organizer gave me 90% certainty that the auction was linked to the descent of higher plane forces. I see. You may return to your country. I waved him off coldly. In 1 month, I will attend the auction in Xintian City. I sensed an opportunity to intercept the higher plane forces. With Zhenzi at my side, I was confident no one in the Eastern continent could match my strength. I had to go to Xintian City to uncover their plot, and, if necessary, stop the higher plane entities from descending at any cost. Cornelius was stunned, then overjoyed. You are truly a wise and righteous emperor. I shall return to report this at once. Cornelius, having prepared a long speech to persuade me, was shocked by how easily the emperor agreed. After bowing, Cornelius left the Imperial study, leaving me to ponder. Seeking to uncover Xintian Pavilion's true intent, I summoned the Jinui. Wang Zhe crushed a signal token, and a deputy commander arrived. By my order, gather all intelligence regarding the Myriad Races auction, I commanded. The officer obeyed and vanished. Since the first signs of higher plane interference, the Jinui had been operating at maximum capacity. The Jinui utilized the Empire's most advanced intelligence channels, including the latest electronic communication devices powered by generators. That evening, Yang Mingwei delivered the compiled intelligence. I remained in my study, fixated on the auction and the path of 10,000 clan genius. I immediately began reviewing the reports. Xintian Pavilion's reputation for intelligence made them nearly impenetrable, even to the Jinui. The reports confirmed that Xintian Pavilion and the Dark Knight Alliance were jointly inviting prodigies and emperors to the auction. Hundreds of Yanhuang prodigies had been invited, lured by the promise of 3 immortal spirit pills each. The immortal spirit pill was Xintian Pavilion's signature product, essential for healing, stabilizing martial Dao, and increasing breakthrough success rates, particularly from Nirvana to Legendary Realm. Though rare and valued at 3 million gold coins each, I found them inferior to my Little Zizai immortal pill for healing, though they excelled at aiding breakthroughs. Clearly, the promise of free pills would draw countless prodigies. The temptation was immense, and Xintian Pavilion's millennium-long reputation for neutrality served as a guarantee of safety against any perceived schemes. For the emperors, the pavilion offered trade route planning and a 50% discount on auction items. For rulers, the discount and new trade routes were irresistible incentives. They are investing heavily, I mused. They must have a grand scheme. I called out, Wang Zhe. Wang Zhe entered, bowing low. He and Zhenzi had stood guard outside the study all day, skipping meals to protect the emperor. Find everyone on this list, and summoned them to the Imperial capital. I handed over the list of Yanhuang prodigies invited by the Pavilion. Thanks to the vast population of the 7 prefectures and the Great Demon Prefecture, Yanhuang's prodigies were both numerous and of high quality. My years of development had significantly elevated the status and strength of the human race. Most of my prodigies were already in the military, and those in noble families were loyal to the Empire, so I wasn't worried about their allegiance. Understood. Wangzhe took the list and departed to make the arrangements. Left alone, I felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread regarding my trip to Xintian City. My martial intuition warned me that my departure might leave the Yanhuang Empire vulnerable. The feeling was deeply unsettling. It was strange. I expected danger to myself, not to my empire. Was this a diversion tactic? I couldn't be sure. I knew my personal combat strength wasn't the Empire's only pillar. My value lay in my leadership and vision. The Empire's strength rested on its talented officials, powerful armies, and the myriad realms generals I had summoned. Logically, my short absence shouldn't cause a collapse. Even if an overwhelming enemy appeared, my presence wouldn't change the outcome against absolute power. I couldn't turn the tide alone. Unable to pinpoint the source of my anxiety, I decided to use my remaining public support energy to further bolster the Empire's strength. I would take precautions. If I couldn't trust my intuition, I would at least ensure the Empire was prepared for any eventuality. I pondered. With the Yanhuang Empire's military largely organized, further upgrades required massive public support energy. Given the high cost, I decided that investing in technology was more efficient than training soldiers. I hesitated, then commanded the system to open my territory attributes instead of the tech tree. Realizing I hadn't upgraded my territory in ages, I noted that the remaining electrical age tech was cheap enough to afford a full territory upgrade. Past upgrades had been highly beneficial, fueling my anticipation. I checked my public support energy, confirmed it was sufficient, and initiated the upgrade. As the system panel flickered, my energy reserves drained rapidly, transforming into mist that enveloped my virtual territory. After half an hour, the upgrade concluded. Myriad Realms Mall reached level 4. Virtual building caps rose to level 4, and I unlocked the skill Emperor's Coercion. The virtual territory expanded slightly, though the buildings remained largely unchanged. I felt disappointed. Spending 10 million public support energy for minor permission upgrades felt like a loss. I noted the new skill, but questioned if it justified the massive cost. Sighing, I accepted that the energy was gone. Hoping the new skill wouldn't disappoint, I pulled up the updated territory attributes. Territory level 4, population 59.6 million out of 160 million total. Military forces included Jinui, Traversing Camp, Cuban Army, Zhuge Crossbowmen, Qin Army, White Horse Yitzhong, Women's Army, and Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry. Public support 100, worship, energy 7.37 million, monthly income 5.96 million. Buildings, Lord's Altar, Tier 3 Barracks, System Blacksmith Shop, Energy Blender, Wenyuan Pavilion, Tier 3 Emperor Statue. With no new buildings, I checked my personal attributes. Level 4, Benevolent and Righteous Monarch trait. Strength, Realization Realm, 5th tier. Talent, Favorable Weather. Talents, Body of 1,000 Gold, Void Sword Treasury. Talent, Soul of the Human Race. Skills, Yanhuang Sword Shadow, One Sword Light Peace, Floating Sword Intent, True Dragon Aura, and the new Emperor's Coercion, which inflicts various negative status effects on weaker beings. Core Legions, Cuban, Repeating Crossbow, Black Jade Cavalry, Qin Army, Traversing Camp, Women's Army, White Horse Yitzhong, Bingzhou Wolf Cavalry. H-001 Red Airship. Lord's Servants, Lingyu, Yang Mingwei, Gao Shun, Zhuge Liang, Chen Kun, Zhao Zilong, Bai Qi, Di Renjia, Li Yuanfang, Hua Mulan, Wang Zhe, Lu Bu, Lei Zhenzi, etc. Demon Servants, Andrew, Ijizu, and various Imperial officials and Xintian members. Not bad, I muttered. I felt satisfied. While expensive, Emperor's Coercion was a valuable addition. My previous skills lacked crowd control, which this now addressed. The skill relied on my own strength, making it a powerful tool against weaker foes. It was useless against stronger opponents, but effective for dominating the weak. Though niche, it was better than nothing. As I prepared to close the panel, another system notification chimed. The system declared my strength insufficient for my territory level and initiated a forced transfer to the unlimited cultivation space. I was stunned. What do you mean? Before I could react, darkness consumed me, and I lost consciousness. I awoke after an unknown amount of time, feeling groggy. Surrounded by total darkness, I asked, "Where am I?" I felt uneven ground and a breeze, but could see nothing. I recalled the system's forced relocation to this unlimited cultivation space. System, show yourself. Where is this? Furious at being manipulated, I felt my authority as a human emperor had been violated. The system replied that this was a space dedicated to my cultivation. I dismissed the explanation as useless. I demanded to be released, citing my urgent imperial duties. I lacked the time for cultivation, believing that true strength required both talent and hard work, not forced seclusion. Compared to other martial geniuses, I lacked only one thing: time to cultivate. Ding. Command failed. Territory level 4 reached. Host strength is insufficient, preventing exit from the unlimited cultivation space. The system's mechanical voice continued. I took a deep breath. Since anger was useless, I needed to assess my situation. Frustrated, I cursed. If I find a way to fix this system, you're the first thing I'm deleting. As an emperor, I despise disobedience, yet the system constantly defied me, leaving me both annoyed and amused. Ding. Host, the system cannot be destroyed. We are soulbound. If I die, you die. I cut it off. Enough. Explain this space. I can't disappear for long, or the Imperial capital will fall into chaos. My disappearance would trigger a political earthquake in the Yanhuang Empire. In fact, the Jinui guarding the Imperial study had already witnessed my vanishing. Though bound by their demon servant status to keep secrets, their shock was absolute. I smiled bitterly, knowing the palace was likely in turmoil. Ding. Rest assured, the space's time flow differs from the main plane. Half an hour here equals 1 year in the 4 directions continent. I relaxed slightly and asked, how do I leave? Ding. You must reach the legendary realm to exit. The space is a protective measure to ensure your strength matches your territory's growth. It is rich in spiritual energy, comparable to the immortal realm. You cannot use public support energy here. You must cultivate the true Emperor Scroll manually. When the system offered to manifest a female body for me to play with using public support energy, I roared, I don't need it. Regaining my composure, I accepted the system as a stern mentor. I spent 120,000 public support energy to purchase a Ningxin pill, a Juki pill, and a one-time cultivation formation, then began my training. With the myriad races auction and the path of 10,000 clan genius approaching, I needed more power. I calmed my mind and focused on cultivation. 9 spiritual energy vortices appeared above my head, blazing like suns, hungrily devouring the surrounding energy. The light bathed my face, making me look like a meditating deity. The density of the energy in this space was shocking. Aided by the formation and the pill, my vortices acted like bandits, compressing massive amounts of energy into my body. I channeled the true Emperor Scroll, refining the energy into Gang Qi and pushing toward new breakthroughs. Starting at the 5th level of the realization realm, my power surged. In 31 days, I climbed through the ranks. I reached the peak of the 9th level of the realization realm. I exhaled, feeling my muscles and meridians aching from the intense strain. I was satisfied with my newfound power. I had to stop to avoid permanent damage. I opened my eyes, releasing 2 sword-like streams of white air into the darkness. System, exchange for a Pingxin pill and a Little Zizai immortal pill. The Pingxin pill would stabilize my foundation. The Little Zizai immortal pill would heal the micro-injuries accumulated from my rapid growth. Neglecting these would hinder future progress. The system delivered the pills instantly. I consumed them, feeling the space's energy remain as thick as ever. I found it strange that the energy levels hadn't dropped despite my consumption. The true Emperor Scroll required 9 times the energy of standard techniques. I had achieved this breakthrough without using public support energy to supplement my intake. My growth rate would have drained the spiritual energy of 2 entire counties in the Yanhuang Empire. Strange. I asked the system why the energy hadn't depleted. Even in a special space, such consumption should have caused a noticeable thinning. The lack of change was baffling. Ding. Host. The space is built upon the system's virtual territory. Due to its unique nature, the energy remains constant. The system introduced the unlimited cultivation space. I asked, what makes it special? The system explained that the space connects to 9 higher planes, the immortal and demon realms, and sacred demon cultivation grounds. With high-density spiritual energy pouring in, the supply is effectively infinite. While not infinite for eternity, the quality and quantity of energy are theoretically sufficient to cultivate me to the saint level. The system provided a concise overview. In short, the system is siphoning energy from other planes. A saint. I'm used. I remained calm, unimpressed by the prospect of reaching the saint level. Even with my exceptional talent, reaching the saint level would take at least a millennium, regardless of the time dilation in the space. That estimate is optimistic, excluding the time needed for life-or-death battles and enlightenment. The system urged me to stay, suggesting I could reach quasi-saint status within 3,000 years. This was the first time the system had ever offered such advice. The space is a one-time opportunity, and the system's ability to siphon energy is limited by the existence of powerful entities in those higher planes. My current strength is low, and this is my only chance. Staying here guarantees an endless supply of energy. The system believes that if I maximize my strength here, many future obstacles will vanish. 3,000 years. I murmured. That translates to over 4 years in the 4 Directions continent. 4 years is too long to hide away. I cannot abandon my responsibilities to my women, the Yanhuang Empire, and the human race. I have too much to protect. With this realization, my mind cleared. Ignoring the system's suggestion, I exhaled and began my cultivation. I aimed for the Nirvana realm, utilizing the true Emperor Scroll, which aligns with the martial Tao of the 4 Directions continent. However, upon reviewing the Nirvana realm steps in the scroll, I paused. The martial Tao paths diverged here. The true Emperor Scroll's method for the Nirvana realm differed entirely from the local practice. I began to study the discrepancy. I used the system to analyze the differences between the 2 cultivation systems. In the 4 Directions continent, the Mingji realm is the foundation. Next is Gyudi, focusing on physical tempering and durability. Then Ninghan, harmonizing spirit and body to unleash full physical potential. The Baisui realm follows, extending the martial artist's lifespan to at least 200 years. The Ranshan realm involves excavating internal potential to boost cultivation. The Suapa realm allows for micro-level control over one's power. The Wuzhen realm focuses on comprehending natural rules and deepening martial insights. The Nirvana realm involves a rebirth through death. The Chuanqi realm is the peak of the 4 Directions continent, where body and spirit reach their limit. While the 4 Directions continent system is orthodox and strong, it is incomplete. The scroll reveals that the local system hits a dead end after the Chuanqi realm. In higher planes, supreme martial artists can tear through space and shatter innate spiritual treasures. Compared to those legends, the 4 Directions continent's Chuanqi realm is underwhelming. No records exist of anything beyond the Chuanqi realm, despite the continent's long history. The path beyond Chuanqi remains a total mystery. Ultimately, martial cultivation and immortal cultivation converge at the saint level. The 4 Directions continent should be a powerful main plane, far superior to other higher planes. Yet, its strongest experts barely match the golden core stage of immortal cultivation. The reason for this discrepancy remains unknown due to missing historical data. Fortunately, the true Emperor Scroll contains the complete martial path. It is a supreme manual, equal to any top-tier immortal cultivation scripture. The scroll promotes a righteous, grand path, which reassured me. I decided to follow the scroll's method for the Nirvana realm. The scroll's method involves 9 deaths and 9 lives, a true rebirth, unlike the superficial local version. Over 9 days, the body is destroyed and rebuilt repeatedly using massive amounts of spiritual energy, while the divine soul is preserved. During this process, the soul is tempered to synchronize with the physical body's rebirth. It is not inherently fatal. One can stop early, though it would result in becoming a cripple. The true Emperor Scroll is designed to be safe, with the Nirvana realm being the most grueling stage. The difficulty lies in the immense pain of constant physical destruction and soul tempering. I have the advantage of the system's infinite energy, ensuring my body will be exceptionally strong if I succeed. No one in the scroll's history has ever had such favorable conditions. I gasped at the description of the process. It sounded excruciating, but I had no choice. I couldn't leave until I reached the Chuanchi realm. I knew the reward would be a superior body and soul. I spent 3 days in deep meditation to reach my peak state before beginning. Once started, there was no turning back. I opened my eyes, ready to begin. My gang chi surged, lifting me into the air. My white robes and black hair whipped in the wind as my eyes grew intensely bright. Swish! I formed a seal with my left hand and raised my right, my palm radiating a blinding, intense gang chi that far surpassed any typical legendary realm expert. Come, I whispered, eyes blazing. Pucci! I plunged my right hand into my own chest. Despite the agonizing pain, I remained focused. Swish! 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 9 spiritual energy vortices appeared above me, acting like suns that greedily devoured the surrounding energy, fueled by the formation beneath me. The dense spiritual energy flowed like a rushing river. Once the concentration peaked, I compressed the energy into my right palm. Boom! The gang chi exploded internally. My body and meridians strained to absorb and compress the influx, tempering every fiber of my being. I forced my body to its limits, using the threat of death to unlock my hidden potential. It was not merely a threat of death. It was actual death. The spiritual energy was so overwhelming that I lasted only 3 hours. Bang! An explosion reduced my body to blood and ash amidst the flames of spiritual energy. Only the 9 vortices remained, continuing to consume massive amounts of energy. The vortices whistled as they gathered more spiritual energy. My divine soul flickered, enduring the excruciating pain of being tempered by the energy. The spiritual energy tore through my soul like 10,000 blades. Gritting my teeth, I focused my spirit to gather the energy and begin reconstructing my physical form. Scientifically, all matter, including humans, is composed of energy at its most fundamental level. Spiritual energy from a higher plane is the purest form of this power, capable of nurturing a saint. I concentrated, using my divine soul to control the reconstruction of my body down to the smallest detail. From blood vessels and organs to skin and hair, I meticulously rebuilt myself, gaining a profound understanding of my own anatomy. I lost all sense of time. A bronze-skinned, powerful male form slowly coalesced in the void. It retained my features, though I stood taller and more muscular. The first cycle of the 9 deaths ended. It had taken 7 days, leaving me stunned. System, why did it take 7 days instead of 1? I questioned the system internally. The 9 deaths could not be interrupted, but this was an unprecedented anomaly. System, analyzing. The system's alarms blared. This situation was not recorded in the true Emperor Scroll. There was no time to waste. The 9 vortices were growing even more violent. I had to begin the second cycle immediately, or the excess energy would destroy my soul and body. As I reached my limit, the system prompted me. Host, delay the body's destruction to allow for more detailed reconstruction. Ignore the passage of time. This is a positive anomaly. By holding on longer, your soul and body will be far stronger than the standard 9 deaths, though the pain will be intensified. I steeled myself and trusted the system. Pucci, I pierced my heart again, my brow furrowing as the agony intensified. The pain was unbearable, but I forced myself to compress the energy, holding on as long as possible. When I could no longer sustain it, boom, an explosion triggered an energy tide that obliterated everything in the training space, reducing my body to nothingness. I had lasted 3 days this time, my soul enduring the tide's fury. The second cycle began, with pain doubling for both soul and body. Reconstruction took 14 days. I emerged stronger than before. Again, Pucci, the brutal cycle continued. With each death, I felt my body and soul growing exponentially more resilient. I lasted 7 days during the third cycle. Boom! The energy tide shattered my body again, my soul screaming in agony. Ah! I felt as though my soul were being torn apart despite the protection of the formation. Without the true Emperor scroll, I would have vanished entirely. I clung to my sanity and began rebuilding. The third cycle took 31 days. The fourth took 21 days to endure and 42 to rebuild. The fifth took 36 and 56 days. The sixth took 47 and 69 days. The pain was constant, and I began to act mechanically, nearly losing touch with my soul. The seventh cycle took 108 days to endure and 231 to rebuild. The eighth cycle took over 2 years to endure and over 3 years to rebuild. During the ninth cycle, my soul teetered on the brink of madness, roaring in agony as I absorbed the final torrents of energy. I held on for over 3 years, followed by over 6 years of reconstruction. Swish! A blinding light erupted in the void. My new body emerged, sharp-featured, with deep, star-like eyes and bronze skin that shimmered with the durability of tempered steel. My body hummed with the resonance of the great Tao, my aura radiating the majesty of a descending deity. My physique was imposing, my gaze sharp as cold stars, and my presence exuded an indomitable, peerless might. I stood like a divine conqueror, a god of the mortal realm. 9 spiritual energy vortices churned within me, absorbing vast amounts of energy, yet my body remained like a bottomless abyss, showing no signs of saturation. Despite the violent energy tides crashing against me from all directions, I remained as immovable as a mountain. Even with the 9 vortices devouring energy, I felt no fullness. Instead, I felt a persistent, gnawing dryness within my meridians. I exhaled, feeling better than ever before. This surge of power ignited my blood, leaving me craving a battle against a worthy foe. My divine soul calculated the time. The life-death 9 revolutions had consumed 16 years. Including my prior training, I had spent nearly 17 years in the unlimited cultivation space. 17 years. I took a deep breath and commanded, "System, open my attribute panel." I urgently needed to gauge my strength relative to the cultivators of the world. The system displayed: name, race, human. Territory, Yanhuang Empire, Xintian City. Territory level, 4, Lord Trait, benevolent and righteous monarch. Lord Strength, true emperor, Nirvana realm, 9th revolution. Nirvana peak? I frowned, recalling the power of the legendary realm I had witnessed through the soul of the human race. I felt my strength far exceeded the 4 Directions continent's legendary peak. Why did the system label me Nirvana realm? And what did true emperor signify? System, explain my realm and the meaning of true emperor. I voiced my confusion. Host, your current strength is Nirvana realm, but it differs from the traditional martial Tao of the 4 Directions continent. You have surpassed the continent's legendary peak. Your power is now equivalent to the tribulation passing stage of cultivation. The true emperor prefix distinguishes your cultivation from the local, inferior Nirvana realm. The system provided a detailed breakdown. Essentially, the system had optimized the martial Tao within the true emperor scroll, creating a system that, while similar to the continents, was fundamentally superior. I opened the true emperor scroll to study the differences. The scroll's path began at the Mingji realm, but diverged at the Nirvana realm, which was divided into 9 distinct revolutions, each providing a massive leap in power. The Life-Death 9 revolutions was a secret technique requiring one to reach the 9th revolution peak instantly. Ordinary practitioners, lacking the system's infinite energy, could only advance 1 revolution at a time. They lacked the system's support to sustain such rapid growth. While the standard method was safer, it lacked the explosive potential of the Life-Death 9 revolutions. In the 4 Directions continent, the legendary realm was the peak, roughly equivalent to, but weaker than, the Golden Core stage. In the True Emperor Scroll, Nirvana revolutions 1 to 9 corresponded to cultivation stages from heart stirring up to tribulation passing. Beyond the 9th revolution lay the legendary realm, divided into lower, middle, and upper tiers. These tiers corresponded to the loose immortal, true immortal, and golden immortal stages, respectively. Beyond that was the Zhenwu realm, where one could tear through the void and traverse planes, equivalent to a great Luo golden immortal. Finally, There was the Saint Realm, the ultimate goal for all, whether they were cultivators, martial artists, or demons, known as great demon gods in the abyss. Regardless of the name, all sought the same origin of power. To become a saint, one must verify the Tao and gain the recognition of a plane's will. I exhaled, stunned by the depth of the knowledge. I had previously relied solely on public support energy, ignoring the true Emperor Scroll's comprehensive analysis of martial systems and its solutions for the Four Directions continent's flawed path. The scroll was a foundational artifact of the system, equal in status to the true Emperor's sword and any supreme saint-level scripture. It was a treasure trove of infinite value. I've been holding the true treasure all along without realizing it. I sighed. I had been too focused on territory management to read the massive text. With this knowledge, could I elevate my empire's martial artists beyond their current limits? My eyes gleamed. A nation of saints was far more powerful than a single individual. This was my strategic advantage. System, does my ninth revolution Nirvana realm mean I possess tribulation passing strength? I pressed for confirmation. According to the Disc Boy's memories, the Immortal Palace Tao Gate's strongest were only at the tribulation passing stage. With this power, I could sweep aside the Tao Gate and the Abyss Demon Lords, provided no higher plane deities intervened. Your realm is equivalent to the tribulation passing stage, but your actual combat power is 9 times higher due to your 9 vortices and the tempering of the life-death 9 revolutions. 9 times the power. I laughed. I could walk sideways across the Four Directions continent now. Ha! The suffering of the 9 revolutions was worth it. System, must I reach the legendary realm to leave? I suddenly remembered my responsibilities. If the system forced me to stay until I reached the legendary realm, I would be trapped. While others might cherish this space, I could not. I had been gone for 17 years, which translated to over half a day in the main plane. My disappearance would have sent my officials into a frenzy, potentially triggering a war against the Dark Knight Alliance. I could not allow the Yanhuang Empire to launch a war that would ruin my grand plans. My influence was too great. Even an hour of absence could cause an earthquake in the Empire. I could not sacrifice my empire for personal gain. The minimum requirement to leave is the legendary realm, which you have already met. However, I suggest you stay to reach the lower legendary realm to maximize the value of this one-time opportunity. I felt relieved, though I weighed the system's advice to continue training. The unlimited cultivation space is a one-time opportunity. Even the system cannot replicate such a heaven-defying feat. I asked. System, calculate how long it will take me to reach the lower legendary realm. Ding. Barring unforeseen circumstances, it will take at least 300 years. So long. I frowned. Given my powerful divine soul, martial Tao talent, and the true Emperor Scroll, I knew it shouldn't take that long. Host, your previous 9 turns of life and death consumed excessive spiritual energy from several ultra-high-level planes. These sources are now depleted and won't recover in the short term, the system explained. I chuckled, realizing I had drained the spiritual energy channels of multiple high-level planes to the point of a vacuum. Fine, if it takes that long, I'll stop cultivating and leave. I laughed. Even after I finished my cultivation, the 9 spiritual energy vortices above my head continued to draw power. After several hours, my gang chi remained unfilled. My internal energy had evolved. Compressed by the energy of ultra-high-level planes, its quality now rivaled the immortal chi of the immortal realm. I scanned the pitch-black void, unable to see anything despite my increased strength. It didn't matter. I was leaving anyway. Sensing the surrounding flow, I raised my hands and clawed at the void. Absorb. A whistling sound echoed. The 9 vortices intensified, greedily plundering the remaining spiritual energy like bandits. The influx of energy began to fill my body. I floated in the air, glowing like a sun, radiating the majesty of a god. Soon, the energy was exhausted, confirming the system's warning about a vacuum period. The void was now empty, and I was only about 70% full. The 9 turns of life and death had expanded my capacity to a terrifying degree. How disappointing. I smiled and gestured. System, get me out. Command accepted, constructing channel. With a flash, I vanished from the darkness. As I departed, chaos erupted in several ultra-high-level planes, including an immortal realm plane. Zishuan Mountain, a renowned blessed land. Known for its incredibly dense spiritual energy, it was one of the most prestigious locations in the immortal realm. Yet, a vacuum had formed. The spiritual density for 10,000 miles around Zishuan Mountain had plummeted. The entire mountain was in shock. The depletion had started 17 days ago, culminating in a total disappearance yesterday. It felt as if a supreme entity had wiped the mountain clean. How are we to cultivate without spiritual energy? Why hasn't the truth been found after 17 days? If this remains unsolved, we will become a laughingstock. 17 days. How do I explain this to the saint? The Mo Ling Hall must give me an answer. A white-haired great Luo golden immortal, the sect master, sat on his throne, livid. Sect master, calm down. We are doing our best. As the golden immortals trembled, a great Luo golden immortal rushed in. Sect master, I found it. The 10 Directions mirror has revealed the truth. He held up the glowing treasure, and the others gathered around. The 10 Directions mirror, an innate spiritual treasure, could reveal the cause of any event. The sect master leaned in, eager to see the answer. The mirror's mist cleared. A line of ancient script appeared. Many thanks to the fellow Taoists of the immortal realm for your generous contribution of spiritual energy to help my master break through. The sect master and his subordinates stared in stunned silence. Their vast reserves had been stolen just to fuel someone's breakthrough? Who could do this under the noses of great Luo golden immortals? Who is this mocking us so? I will report this to the saint. The sect master roared in fury. Similar mass disappearances occurred in the demon realm and other high-level planes. All this energy had been funneled into the unlimited cultivation space for me. The system had taken a massive risk to facilitate this. It only allowed the space to be used once because it dared not risk a second attempt while I was still weak. Such large-scale theft would inevitably draw the attention of saints. If the system opened the space again, the saints would detect it, putting me in extreme danger. The system dared not take that risk, nor did it tell me the full reason why. The 9 turns of life and death was a notoriously difficult technique, requiring massive amounts of energy to reshape the body. It was a technique built on sheer energy consumption, but its effects were unparalleled. I, having left the space, remained unaware of the panic I had caused among the high-level entities. Imperial Palace, Imperial Study. Swish. Ripples appeared in the air, and I materialized in the empty study. I had spent 17 years in the cultivation space, which translated to 17 hours in the 4 Directions continent. I had entered in the afternoon. It was now the following morning. The study was empty. Even the Jinyui were absent. The incense burner had gone out, and the memorials remained stacked on the desk. I've been gone for half a day. They must be worried. I smiled and stepped out of the Imperial study, only to find the area deserted, even lacking Lei Zhenzi, who usually stood guard. Huh? Where's everyone? Frowning, I took a step, my body flickering through the void to instantly reappear before Cunning Palace. This was the power of my Nirvana 9 revolutions, refined by 17 years of cultivation in the infinite space. Yet, Miss Huyen and the other consorts were nowhere to be found. I wondered where they had gone. Nearby maids, startled by my voice, looked up to see their majestic emperor standing before them. The emperor, they cried out in surprise, immediately prostrating themselves. Your Majesty, may you be well. Rise. Where is the empress? I asked calmly. The maids replied timidly that after I vanished last night, the empresses had spent the night in distress. Unable to find me, Miss Huyen had led the consorts to the morning court assembly to manage state affairs and organize a search. Tell me everything. I won't blame you, I commanded. Trembling, a maid whispered that the empresses suspected the Dark Knight Alliance of foul play. They had sent envoys to demand his whereabouts, and Miss Huyen had declared that if they refused, today's court assembly would serve as the mobilization for war. I shook my head with a bitter smile. I understand. I vanished into the void, leaving the terrified maids kneeling in my wake. As I approached the main hall, guards challenged me. Who goes there? It is I replied. Despite my lack of imperial robes, my presence was unmistakable. The guards were shocked and overjoyed, immediately kneeling. Long live the emperor. As I walked, rows of guards knelt, bowing their heads in reverence. Though the hall's doors were soundproof, I could hear the heated arguments within. The hall was packed with officials, including Su Long, Di Renjia, and Li Yuanfang, who had rushed back from the Great Demon Prefecture. The Emperor's disappearance under the Jinyui's watch had caused mass panic. Officials were furious at the guard's failure. Miss Huyen had shown restraint, giving Yang Mingwei a deadline instead of immediate imprisonment. 10 hours have passed with no progress. What use are you? Miss Huyen's voice rang out, sharp with anxiety. I am here, Yang Mingwei replied, stepping forward. 10 more hours, she declared coldly. If you cannot find him, the Jinyui will execute themselves before the throne. Her tone was icy, reflecting the severity of the crisis. She displayed a ruthless, iron-willed leadership that rivaled my own. I swear on my life, Yang Mingwei vowed. If I fail, I shall die to prove my loyalty. He spoke with grim determination. This was a deep humiliation for the Jinyui, following previous security breaches. Public trust in the Jinyui was rapidly eroding. Yang Mingwei felt the crushing weight of this failure. The Jinyui had been searching for 10 hours, even detaining Lei Zhenzi and Wang Zhe for their negligence. The two guards had surrendered themselves to the Jinyui prison voluntarily to account for their failure. Every suspect was being interrogated, and Miss Huyen had even granted the Jinyui search authority over the inner palace. They had turned the capital upside down to no avail. Just as despair took hold, the hall doors creaked open. Everyone turned in shock. Who would dare interrupt the furious empress? They saw a figure standing in the morning light, looking like a majestic statue. I was smiling gently. The man in white robes seemed blindingly radiant. I appeared as an untouchable, divine figure. What? Have you forgotten me? I asked, stepping forward. A voice trembled. It's the Emperor. Cries of joy and shock erupted throughout the hall. Chen Kun realized the disappearance had likely been my own doing. He knelt immediately. We pay our respects to the Emperor. Long live the Emperor. The officials followed suit, chanting in unison. They parted to clear a path for me. Husband. Miss Huyen ran toward me, tears in her eyes. The consorts followed, their faces filled with relief and concern. I stroked her hair. Do not worry. I merely felt a sudden inspiration and stepped away for a while. We are relieved you have returned, Chen Kun said, keeping his head bowed. The officials knew better than to question the Emperor's movements. I nodded and instructed Chuntao to escort the Empress and consorts back to the inner palace. Though they had many questions, they obeyed and departed. I sat on the throne, and the court session officially began. Chen Kun, how is the progress on the Research Institute? The Yanhuang Research Institute was a project of paramount importance near the palace. It is nearly complete, Your Majesty, Chen Kun replied. Good, I said, turning to Zhuge Liang. I appoint you as director. Select the finest students from the Grand Academician Mansion and Women's Academy, and coordinate with the Ministry of Works to recruit the best craftsmen and alchemists. I issued my orders, setting the new policy into motion. The Yanhuang Empire has established free academies across all 7 prefectures, including the Great Demon Prefecture, with no age restrictions. Top graduates are funneled into the Imperial capital's Grand Academician Mansion and Women's Academy. After nearly a year of rigorous selection, these institutions are now filled with exceptional talent. I created the Research Institute to utilize this talent, building a dedicated R&D hub to diversify the Empire's tech tree. With the Institute's research capabilities, I no longer need to rely solely on the tech tree. I only need to unlock key nodes when the researchers hit bottlenecks. I obey your decree, Zhuge Liang replied respectfully. Entrusting the Research Institute to the versatile Zhuge Liang is the optimal choice. No one in the Empire is better suited for the role. Zhuge Liang possesses immense political acumen alongside profound insights into military strategy, economics, physics, chemistry, medicine, and mystical arts. While not the absolute master of every field, his all-encompassing wisdom makes him the perfect overseer to guide the Institute's direction under my vision. I dismissed Zhuge Liang and Chen Kun, then turned my attention to Di Renjia and Li Yuanfang. Renjia, how fares the Great Demon Prefecture? I asked. Reporting to the Emperor Lord, with the full support of the 7 prefectures, the Great Demon Prefecture has fully restored its production and order. Its tens of millions of citizens are ready to serve you. Debrief stepped forward and bowed. To ensure stability in the Empire's largest prefecture, I had stationed God of War Su Long there, alongside Debrief and Li Yuanfang. An attendant presented the detailed reports on the Great Demon Prefecture to me. I scanned them briefly and nodded. Excellent. I am pleased. In that case, make the Great Demon Prefecture the primary region for this year's military recruitment. Baishan County is exempt. The Empire usually rotates its primary recruitment hub among the 7 prefectures, with Baishan County typically favored due to the fierce combat prowess of its people. However, I intend to allow the men of Baishan to rest and recover. The Great Demon Prefecture is populous, but its citizens, mostly refugees and former subjects of other duchies, lack full loyalty. Consuming their population through military service helps prevent internal unrest. Understood. Debrief accepted the order, planning to coordinate the specifics with Minister of War Huang Zhongyi after the court session. Upon my return, I implemented policies with steady, decisive political skill. Under my guidance, the officials kept the Yanhuang Empire running like clockwork. This highlights the necessity of a ruler. While the empire wouldn't collapse instantly without me, I act as its soul and brain. My foresight, linking the Grand Academician Mansion with the Research Institute, or the Great Demon Prefecture with military logistics, is beyond the grasp of most officials. Even capable men like Zhuge Liang, Chen Kun, and Su Long lack the supreme authority required to command the entire empire. Ruling over hundreds of millions requires not just power, but the deep, hard-earned trust of the people. Having addressed the urgent matters, I surveyed my officials. The court expected the session to end, but I remained silent, leaving them curious yet afraid to ask. After a pause, I called out, "Bai Qi." "I am here," Bai Qi replied, kneeling on one knee. With no active wars, the Empire's legendary realm generals are all present in the capital. The Empire's mobility is such that these experts can provide instant support to any conflict zone. You have been in the legendary realm for some time. Tell me, how confident are you in breaking through to the legendary peak? The question caught everyone off guard. Bai Qi was stunned. Breaking through the peak? The entire court froze, confused by the emperor's intent. Zhao Zilong, Su Long, Hua Mulan, and the other generals exchanged bewildered glances. As a martial artist himself, did the emperor not know that the legendary peak is the absolute limit of the martial Tao on the Four Directions continent? I have no confidence. Bai Qi smiled bitterly. Emperor Lord, the legendary peak is the end of the path. I cannot break through it. No one dared to speak, yet doubt filled their hearts. For tens of thousands of years, the strongest warriors had exhausted every method to no avail, eventually dying of old age without ever advancing further. If geniuses like Zhao Zilong or the peerless Lu Bu couldn't do it, why would Bai Qi succeed? No confidence. I smiled brightly. But I do. I have the method to help you break through the legendary peak and attain even greater power. The court fell deathly silent. Is that true, Emperor Lord? Su Long asked, his eyes gleaming. Naturally. Have I ever deceived you? I replied calmly. The officials gasped in shock. The emperor possessed a way to transcend the legendary peak? The implications were immense. Zhuge Liang and Chen Kun exchanged excited glances. As top ministers, they understood what this meant for the empire's future. It meant total dominance over all races on the continent and greater leverage when dealing with the higher plane. Realizing this, they knelt together. We beg the Emperor Lord to bestow this method and strengthen our nation. Before the others could react, Su Long and the other legendary generals knelt behind the ministers, shouting, "We beg for the method." Their eyes burned with desperate longing. Transcending the peak was the lifelong dream of every elite warrior. "Haha, calm yourselves. Rise, my ministers." I laughed. "Since I said I have a way, I will certainly help you surpass the legendary peak." As they rose, Su Long asked, "Emperor Lord, have you already surpassed that realm?" "Indeed," I replied. The generals were shaken once more. I had only recently been at the realization realm. Now I had already surpassed the legendary peak. Su Long felt a wave of relief and pride. I had broken through, and unlike others who would hoard such a secret, I chose to share it. As an emperor, I knew that the strength of the collective far outweighed the power of a single individual. I scanned the silent crowd. As you know, the martial Dao of the Four Directions continent, including Qin Dao, is divided into 9 realms. For tens of thousands of years, the myriad races have sought to break the legendary peak, believing it to be the end. They were wrong. I possess a secret technique exclusive to the human race, detailing a realm beyond the legendary peak. Other races cannot cultivate it even if they learn of it. The crowd gasped in awe. A secret technique exclusive to the human race. Does this mean only our human race can produce warriors stronger than the legendary peak? The officials exchanged excited glances, their eyes burning with anticipation. While Yanhuang Empire's technology is soaring, with some predicting it would eventually eclipse martial artists, my new cultivation method proves that martial Dao remains the Empire's backbone. This technique ensures martial artists remain the Yanhuang Empire's most formidable force. Previously, other races on the Four Directions continent held inherent advantages over humans, whether through superior divine souls, physical strength, or natural flight. But now, thanks to the Emperor Lord, humanity has a secret method to surpass the myriad races and seize the lead. Silence, Su Long commanded, instantly quelling the murmurs. I smiled. This method improves upon the existing 9 realms of martial Dao. It still consists of 9 realms. However, after the Nirvana realm, the method requires adjustments to your cultivation habits and inner techniques. I explained that while the continent has many techniques, their inner cultivation methods are flawed. The true Emperor Scroll fixes this. Previously, experts like Bai Qi and Zhao Zilong were capped at the legendary peak because their techniques were restricted by the plane's rules. Everyone, today I shall revise and complete the human race's 9 realms of martial Dao. I stood up. The names remain, but starting from the Nirvana realm, we add 9 turns, followed by the lower, middle, and upper legendary realms. I spent the day refining this. Which legendary general will come forward to test it? I produced a weakened version of the true Emperor Scroll. The thin, ancient book was titled 9 Realms of Martial Dao, prepared by the system. It contains standard cultivation methods that, while less profound than mine, rivaled the top techniques of any high-level martial plane. I intended to use this to overhaul the Yanhuang martial system and trigger a massive leap in human strength. Who dares to try? My white robes fluttered without wind. A terrifying aura swept the hall, forcing everyone to kneel and tremble before my abyss-like power. Even Su Long felt the crushing weight of a power that transcended the legendary peak. This was the power every warrior on the Four Directions continent dreamed of, now laid bare before them. The Emperor Lord had spent his absence perfecting this path. Lu Bu, burning with fervor, stepped forward. Emperor Lord, I am willing. As the Empire's top warrior, he hungered for the strength to defend this honor. Good. I tossed the manual to Lu Bu, who caught it deftly. Clear the area, I ordered, stepping down from the throne. The officials scrambled back. They watched with bated breath, wondering if Lu Bu would truly break through the legendary peak. Calm your mind. Use the technique in the manual to recondense your Nirvana realm. I instructed. I guided him personally. Though the system guaranteed success, I monitored him closely, refusing to gamble with his general's life. Legendary peak warriors possess vast gang chi and spiritual energy, enough to complete the second turn of the Nirvana realm, equivalent to the Golden Core stage. This process perfects their path, allowing for future breakthroughs without hidden dangers. Understood. Lu Bu sat cross-legged and began circulating the new technique. Though he had to drop from the legendary peak to the Nirvana realm, it was a rebirth, expanding his martial potential. The old 9 realms were a dead end. Lu Bu was now correcting his course. Starting from the Nirvana realm, he began his adjustment. Lu Bu sat in the center of the hall, his body glowing as gang chi radiated outward. Su Long watched, stunned. It was clearly distinct from traditional methods. Thunderous sounds and the roar of boiling blood erupted from Lu Bu's body. This was the first turn of the Nirvana realm, using spiritual energy to gently refine his physique and divine soul. It was safer than my own path, though slightly less potent. An hour passed. The glow faded. Continue to the second turn. I commanded. Lu Bu obeyed. Most legendary peak humans could complete the second turn in one go, as their internal energy was sufficient. The thunderous sounds continued. Another hour passed. The second turn was complete. Continue, I added. I will assist you with the third turn. I placed my hand on Lu Bu's head. Concentrated spiritual energy flowed from me into Lu Bu's crown. Lu Bu's inner technique, like parched earth meeting rain, devoured the energy to fuel the third turn. The sound of rushing blood grew deafening. A powerful aura began to boil around Lu Bu. The other generals watched in awe as Lu Bu transformed into a new, superior warrior. This was power beyond the legendary peak. A muffled explosion sounded within Lu Bu. The third turn was complete, equivalent to the nascent soul stage. Lu Bu opened his eyes, his gaze sharp, radiating newfound power. I retracted my hand. Rise. Lu Bu knelt, voice trembling with gratitude. Thank you, Emperor Lord. I will never forget this. Without my help, Lu Bu might never have broken through the legendary peak. As the 9 turns progress, the energy required for each breakthrough becomes immense. Incredible. Is this power truly beyond the legendary peak? The court officials gasped, staring at Lu Bu with a mix of awe and envy. The officials and legendary realm martial artists alike watched Lu Bu, burning with curiosity and jealousy. They envied his luck in being the first to test the Emperor's secret technique and attain power surpassing the legendary peak. Back on my throne, I noted the envy in the eyes of Su Long, Bai Qi, and Zhao Zilong. As Lu Bu returned to his post, military generals swarmed him, eager to learn about his new strength. Seeing their hunger for power, I laughed and summoned Guoda, who knelt instantly. Copy this manual and distribute it to every legendary realm general. Send 10,000 copies to the Grand Academician's Estate, the Women's Academy, and the Yanhuang Martial Arts School. Any human martial artist at the realization peak may cultivate it. I commanded, draft an imperial decree. Summon all realization peak and nirvana realm martial artists to the capital. I have new techniques for them. Guoda accepted the order with immense excitement. This would spark a cultivation frenzy. While other races capped at the legendary peak, Yanhuang's nirvana realm warriors would now rival them. Yanhuang had surpassed the myriad races in both technology and martial Dao. Each of the 9 nirvana stages requires immense spiritual energy, making breakthrough difficult through cultivation alone, I noted. I will soon construct sources of spiritual energy to accelerate everyone's progress. The officials knelt in gratitude, overwhelmed by my benevolence. They were already grateful for the techniques. The promise of dedicated training grounds was an unexpected blessing. To have such a generous and thoughtful emperor was their greatest fortune. As the court celebrated, the clear sky outside suddenly darkened with thick, ominous clouds. The clouds blanketed the imperial capital like a shroud, filling the citizens with terror. Heaven's might was brewing. All living things trembled in fear. Boom! A thunderclap exploded over the imperial palace, shaking the entire capital. The sudden, violent strike threw the officials into a panic. I frowned, sensing something unnatural about the clear sky thunder. Panic spread through the court and the city. I stepped out to see the capital plunged into darkness under the oppressive clouds. It felt less like a storm and more like a heavenly tribulation. I spotted golden lightning flickering within the clouds, pulsing with profound power. From the high palace, I saw citizens kneeling, begging for mercy. Their cries of "Heaven, have mercy!" echoed through the streets. The gathering lightning alone had shattered the people's resolve. The heavy clouds pressed down on everyone's hearts, making it hard to breathe. Is heaven angry? Guoda stammered, fearing the empire had committed some grave offense. The officials were visibly shaken. Even the strongest fear the forces of nature. Su Long barked, "Shut up," at the trembling civil officials. Even the composed Qin Kun looked pale. Fear the heavens. I defy the myriad races. Why should I fear mere thunder? I soared into the sky. The Wushuang imperial throne appeared behind me, its energy shield flaring to protect me. I drew the Yanhuang precious sword. These innate spiritual treasures were my foundation, capable of resisting even the heavens. Yet, I felt immense pressure from the golden thunder. My instincts screamed danger, despite my power exceeding that of a tribulation stage expert. As the human emperor, I had to stand firm. I am the heaven. Only I may pass judgment. If this thunder celebrates Yanhuang, I grant amnesty. If it punishes us, I will tear the sky apart. My cold, majestic voice rang out across the capital as I hovered beneath the clouds. The people looked up, seeing their emperor. To the humans, heaven represented the righteous path, but the emperor was their true protector. This was a clash between divine authority and imperial power. I had to act. If I allowed the heavenly tribulation to strike, my authority would crumble in the eyes of the people. I would defend my people and my throne, even if it meant fighting the sky. As I prepared to strike, the system chimed. Host, the system detects merit lightning. It is recommended you accept the baptism. I blinked, stunned. It was merit lightning, not a tribulation. Merit lightning is the pinnacle of celestial phenomena, powerful, yet harmless to its target, bestowing great benefits. In cultivation terms, it is merit lightning. In magical planes, it is the plane will. It is a recognition of one's status. It appears to grant merit and the mark of the plane will to those it deems worthy. The plane will of the Four Directions continent was rewarding me. It's for me? What did I do to earn this? I retracted my weapons, knowing the lightning would destroy anything else it touched. I couldn't risk my treasures. The system analysis suggests your accumulated actions have been recognized by the plane will as great merit. The system confirmed. By leading the human race to rise, awakening the true dragon phantom, and expanding the empire, I had become a saint in the eyes of my people. While my previous deeds were significant, they were internal to the human race. However, by refining and completing the 9 realms of martial Tao, I had advanced the entire plane's cultivation foundation, triggering this recognition. By enabling stronger martial artists, I have bestowed a great merit upon the Four Directions continent, breaking a deadlock that had persisted for tens of thousands of years. This massive heavenly tribulation of merit was triggered by my distribution of the secret manual of the 9 realms of martial Tao and my accumulated racial merits. Merit is an enigmatic power, known in some divine kingdom systems as the power of faith or the laws of the plane. Those blessed with merit are under the absolute protection of the plane. I can also use cultivation techniques to forge innately supreme treasures infused with this merit. The benefits are countless. I took a deep breath, glancing at the anxious officials and expectant citizens below before looking up at the gathering golden thunder. A strange smile curled on my lips. This was a rare opportunity to show off, or rather, to assert imperial power. Let this heavenly tribulation of merit crown me, so my people know the Yanhuang Empire fears nothing. I rose into the air, moving toward the dark clouds as the crowd watched with a mix of terror and awe. Public sentiment is fickle, yet sometimes it is purely devoted. The emperor is ascending. The officials and citizens shouted, eyes locked on the white-robed figure rising into the sky. As I neared the clouds, golden lightning surged and struck me with a deafening roar. Boom! The thunder shook the imperial capital, drawing cries of fear from the crowd. The heavenly tribulation has struck the emperor. The citizens knelt, trembling as they gazed at the horizon. They watched in agony, wondering if their emperor could survive such a baptism. Yet, many clenched their fists, believing in their invincible human race great emperor. Damn it! Su Long and the others moved to intervene, but Zhuge Liang stopped them. Look, Zhuge Liang said calmly. Amidst the dark clouds, the white figure remained unscathed, drifting through the golden lightning. I stood tall, bathing in the thunder while overlooking the capital. Golden lightning danced across my skin, hair, and eyes. With hands raised, I channeled the lightning, using it to refine my divine soul and body. My Jade Prince Celadon robe disintegrated, replaced by a suit of golden armor formed from the merit-infused lightning. Heavenly tribulation? Even the heavens must submit to my command. I roared, my eyes flashing with electricity, appearing like a god descending from the stars. My voice echoed clearly throughout the entire imperial capital. Though the citizens couldn't see clearly, they heard my voice and knew I was safe. Long live the emperor! Su Long roared, followed by the imperial guard and the officials, all bowing in submission. The citizens cheered with fanatical devotion, their voices shaking the very clouds. I continued to bathe in the golden lightning. As the lightning intensified, The people feared the heavens were trying to destroy their emperor. Many gripped their hands until their nails dug into their skin. It was a struggle between the heavenly Tao and the emperor. I felt invigorated. The merit was refining my body and soul, a reward even saints would covet. I remained focused on my goal. Today, I would shatter the awe of the heavenly Tao and cement my own invincibility in the hearts of my people. Dragon, come forth, I shouted, raising my hands. A massive, true dragon phantom erupted from behind me, scales shimmering and claws sharp. Roar! The dragon's aura surged as it soared into the sky. That is the Emperor's dragon. The dragon dove into the clouds, bathing in the golden lightning without harm. As an extension of my power, the phantom was immune to the tribulation. 10,000 years of light, 8,000 miles of ocean. I chanted, soaring through chaos, swallowing the primordial. With the sun and moon as tattoos, the mountains and rivers as symbols. I bellowed. I am your innate faith. Yanhuang is the orthodox path. I define the purity of the race. No heavens, no gods. I am the protector of humanity. Imperial power is supreme. 9 spiritual energy vortices appeared above my head like newborn suns. Boom! The golden lightning intensified, responding to my challenge. The vortices devoured the merit-filled lightning, and I felt the power of faith condensing within me. Not enough. Give me more. I pointed to the sky, and the true dragon phantom carried the 9 vortices back into the heart of the golden clouds. Under the gaze of the people, the vortices greedily consumed the merit. Roar! The clouds groaned like a wounded beast. The golden lightning vanished, completely devoured by my vortices. As the final golden lightning bolt struck, the black clouds dissipated. I absorbed the remaining electrical current and donned a white robe from my backpack. The sky cleared, and the sun reappeared. A dragon's roar echoed. A massive true dragon phantom dove down from the sky like a playful child. The dragon coiled around me, its eyes radiating cold majesty. Sunlight glinted off my shoulders. The officials shielded their eyes, overwhelmed by an illusion. It wasn't the sun that was blinding. It was the godlike man standing above them. The capital fell into a deathly silence as everyone stared at the majestic Emperor Lord. Chun Kun swallowed hard, disbelieving. The Emperor Lord actually drove away the heavenly tribulation? If even the heavens couldn't suppress their emperor, the human race was truly invincible. A surge of fervor swept through the crowd. They recalled my earlier proclamation. I was the protector and eternal faith of the human race, embodying the mountains, rivers, and sun and moon. They no longer needed to fear the heavens or gods. I was enough. The masses knelt in reverence. They no longer knelt to the sky, but to the man who defied it. Long live the Emperor Lord. A hoarse, fanatical cry shattered the silence. Like oil hitting a flame, the entire city erupted in cheers. The masses and officials prostrated themselves at my feet. I had cemented my status as an invincible protector, earning the absolute, soul-deep trust of my people. They believed I surpassed the heavenly Tao. I waited for the system's notification. I felt a new, unfamiliar energy within me. I couldn't fully control it yet, leaving me frustrated. The system finally chimed. System, congratulations, you have gained merit power from the 4 continents after the golden lightning baptism. System, you have gained the plain will's recognition and 30 million public support energy. System, the Liangyi Weichen array, weakened version has been upgraded with 9 spiritual energy sources. System, your talent soul of the human race has mutated. I was stunned by the rewards. The baptism had not only strengthened my potential, but also provided massive systemic bonuses. The rewards, public support, talent mutation, and array upgrades, were incredibly generous. System, open my territory and lord attributes. My public support energy reached 37.14 million. I examined the new descriptions for Soul of the Human Race and Merit Power. Soul of the Human Race, mutated to allow the accumulation of power of faith from the Yanhuang Empire. More faith grants control over more plain laws and luck. Merit Power grants absolute protection within the 4 continents, shielding the user from all physical, energy, toxic, and mental harm. I began to grasp the significance of these powers. Though the terminology varied by plane, I knew these were invaluable assets. I couldn't utilize the power of faith, yet due to insufficient accumulation. However, as the loyal citizens of the Yanhuang Empire provided a steady stream of faith, my control over the laws would grow exponentially. I was exhilarated. These were the very powers gods and immortals fought over. I finally understood why deities craved worship and merit. Haha, excellent. I am well pleased. I descended and returned to the Imperial Hall. I issued a decree, a general amnesty. Instead of releasing prisoners, I exempted all 7 prefectures, including the Great Demon Prefecture, from agricultural taxes for a year. This was why my public support remained so high. The upgraded Liangyi Weichen array now covered the entire capital and provided protection to the whole empire. It had become a true national defense formation. Upgrading it manually would have cost over 100 million public support energy. While still only 1% of the power of the legendary ancient arrays, it was a massive improvement. The 9 spiritual energy sources required energy, ore, and high-quality monster crystal cores to function. I refused to spend public support energy on them, deeming it too precious. I ordered the Research Institute to supply the necessary ores and cores to open the sources for elite martial artists. Only those at the peak of the realization realm or higher could enter, provided they signed a demon contract. I was cautious. I knew human nature was unpredictable. To gain power, they had to become my demon servants. With the treasury's resources, the 9 sources were activated. The Imperial Guard was assigned to protect them. Generals like Bai Qi, Zhao Zilong, and Su Long led the elite troops to train and seek breakthroughs. Each source could accommodate tens of thousands, providing a waterfall of spiritual energy for rapid advancement. The remaining sources were opened to the core legions, the Women's Army, Repeating Crossbow Army, Traversing Camp, Cuban Army, and others. The spiritual energy sources became a massive boon for the Empire's military strength. Over the next week, I spent 20 million public support energy to unlock the core technologies of the electrical age and the information age. I unlocked critical technological data for the Research Institute, including aviation, electrical engineering, satellite technology, and electromagnetics, providing them with a comprehensive development roadmap. Although the Institute currently lacks the capacity to implement these, I have effectively mapped out their long-term research trajectory. I further spent public sentiment energy to unlock advanced weaponry, including gunpowder derivatives, electronic and molecular weapons, as well as nuclear, neutron, and hydrogen bombs. For the remaining scientific data, I redeemed detailed theoretical books and blueprints from the 10,000 Realms System Mall, delivering them directly to the Institute. Having invested 30 million public sentiment energy points, I am now ready to reap the rewards of the talent I have painstakingly cultivated. With all my energy rewards poured into the Research Institute, the facility is now operating at peak efficiency under Marquis Wu Zhuge's command. Located beside the Imperial Palace, the Research Institute has become the Yanhuang Empire's core, representing the ultimate aspiration for all scholars, craftsmen, and alchemists. Entry into the Institute is the highest honor in the Empire. Scholars and craftsmen across the 7 prefectures and the Great Demon Prefecture are striving to prove their worth to gain admission. The title of Master Craftsman remains deferred, as the Institute has yet to develop the powerful energy bombs I promised. Recognizing its importance, I granted the Institute exclusive control over the National Treasury's energy, ores, and monster crystal cores, along with authority over all national factory operations. The Institute now manages all energy or research and production, including the proceeds from selling decommissioned steam engines and production lines to the Yanhuang Alliance. Ogre laborers and those gifted by various races have been dispatched to the Orc Empire to mine. Per Zhuge's decree, these laborers work tirelessly, driven by the promise of freedom upon reaching specific mining quotas. Within half a month, the alien nations within the Yanhuang Alliance have been transformed by the introduction of steam engines and production lines. The resulting surge in productivity has shocked the Eastern continent, particularly the Orc Empire, which has rapidly recovered its military and industrial sectors. The Night Alliance is stunned, questioning how the Orc Empire recovered so quickly. They recall the Dark Knight Monarch's prediction that the Orcs would be crippled for a century, Yet the Orc Legion was reformed just 3 days ago. Skepticism abounds regarding how the Orcs managed to equip millions of soldiers with armor and weapons so quickly. Reports confirm the Orcs have not only reformed their legions, but are also preparing a new Behemoth Legion, awaiting only the selection of beasts from the Holy Mountain. Critics argue that crafting complex, heavy behemoth saddles should take months, making the rapid assembly impossible. They doubt the Orc Empire possesses enough skilled craftsmen to produce the necessary equipment for a full Behemoth Legion. The Dark Knight Empire's court is in turmoil, unable to accept that the Yanhuang alliance is becoming an unstoppable force. Officials are trembling as they witness the rapid evolution of the Yanhuang alliance. The Yanhuang Empire and its allies are developing at a pace that far outstrips the Knight Alliance. They fear that if this continues, the Knight Alliance will be left behind and suffer defeat in future confrontations. The atmosphere within the Knight Alliance is one of desperate anxiety. They conclude that they must uncover the source of Yanhuang's power, even if it requires military intervention. The Dark Knight Monarch orders an immediate, thorough investigation into the rapid development of the Orc Empire and other Yanhuang allies. The Knight Alliance's intelligence network mobilizes, finding it easier to infiltrate smaller principalities than the Orc Empire. The truth is soon revealed to the Dark Knight Monarch. The secret lies in steam engines and production lines, though the Monarch has yet to grasp their full significance before a public opinion storm erupts. A sudden wave of public discourse sweeps through the Knight Alliance. Rumors spread about the Yanhuang Alliance's new technology. People talk of factories that can mass-produce weapons and armor with divine efficiency. They note that Yanhuang tobacco and rice wine are also products of this technology. From silk and porcelain to furs and jewelry, everything is now produced in these factories. The realization spreads that every nation in the Yanhuang Alliance now utilizes these factories. It is rumored that a factory produces in 3 days what 10,000 craftsmen take a month to complete. This explains the rapid recovery of the Orc Empire despite the recent war. The citizens of the Knight Alliance are shocked and begin to voice their demands. They question why their own monarch has not provided them with such advanced technology. Word spreads that these machines are purchased from the human emperor of the Yanhuang Empire. The public clamors for the Knight Alliance to purchase these technologies to strengthen their own nation. The desire for progress spreads like a wildfire, consuming every corner of the Knight Alliance. It is clear that the Brocade Cloak Bureau has once again subtly manipulated public opinion. The common people prefer peaceful trade over the bloodshed of war. In the Dark Knight Empire's court, the monarch questions his officials about these miraculous inventions. The monarch sits on his throne, his voice cold as he surveys his officials. The court is silent, as the topic of steam engines and the Yanhuang Empire has become unavoidable. The speed of this public outcry suggests a deliberate, orchestrated campaign. After a tense silence, an official steps forward to report. He explains that steam engines are Yanhuang inventions capable of replacing human labor with extreme efficiency, while production lines are simple, standardized processes. The official trails off, struggling to articulate the full implications of this technological shift. The official stood speechless, frozen in place. He realized his praise for the steam engine was effectively praising the Yanhuang Empire, the Dark Knight Empire's mortal enemy. Years ago, the Dark Knight Alliance's venerable Dalawan nearly killed the human emperor. My thunderous vow still echoed. If I grow strong, I will point my sword at the Dark Knight race, shatter your ancestral tablets, sever your bloodlines, and slaughter your capital. The hatred between the two sides was absolute. Only one could survive. Both I and the Dark Knight Monarch understood this truth. The human emperor was no longer a weakling. He had become a threat requiring the Dark Knight Monarch's full attention, and even powerful Eastern Continent factions struggled to oppose the Yanhuang Empire alone. Why did you stop? The monarch demanded. The official stammered, sweating profusely. I only know this much. The monarch scoffed. The steam engine and production line are divine tools, the monarch declared. The Yanhuang Empire got lucky. I already purchased a set secretly from an ally and sent it for study. Half a month has passed, and the entire alliance expects me to produce our own. Horus, have you succeeded? The monarch's cold gaze locked onto the official. Public demand for the steam engine had reached a boiling point. It was a necessity at any cost. Without it, the Dark Knight Alliance would fall behind, and the populace would lose faith in their leadership, threatening the monarch's control. Horus trembled and knelt, his voice bitter. I am incompetent. I cannot master this technology. Horus, who oversaw all craftsmen, had gathered the Alliance's best, yet they failed. Oh, why not? The monarch asked chillingly. They had spent 10 times the cost and exhausted their best minds, yet failed to replicate Yanhuang's tech? It was a slap to the monarch's face. The production line is easy to copy, Horus explained, but the steam engine is the difficulty. Horus swallowed hard. A line needs a steam engine to run. We can replicate the parts, but when we assemble them, it simply won't start. Horus felt a deep, bitter despair. It was maddening. Even using the highest-grade energy ores, their replica remained inert. The system had modified the technology using integration of livelihood tech with chi life forms and fusion enhancement theory. These tech tree branches allowed perfect integration with local energy ores and created a unique chain. Without the complete data and theoretical knowledge, assembly was impossible. It was an effective anti-piracy measure. System-produced items were not so easily copied. So, you found nothing? The monarch's voice dropped low. The temperature in the hall plummeted. The monarch's fury was palpable. The failure of his elite craftsmen was a humiliation. Fearing for his life, Horus kowtowed frantically. No, I have a discovery. A major discovery. Oh, let's hear it. The tension eased slightly as the officials breathed a sigh of relief. Horus grinned obsequiously. We discovered that the engine requires energy ores or monster crystal cores to function. Without them, it's just scrap. The hall fell into a deathly, stunned silence. Everyone, even commoners, already knew that basic fact. Horus's discovery was as obvious as saying humans need clothes or eggs contain chicks. It was utter nonsense, yet he spoke with such solemnity. The officials were dumbfounded, and the hall's temperature dropped back to freezing. Horus realized his fatal mistake, but he was trapped by his own incompetence. His smile vanished, replaced by a look of pure terror. Your Majesty, he stammered, realizing his attempt to appease the monarch had only fueled the fire. How could a politician make such a blunder? The monarch suppressed his rage and spat out. Drag him out and execute him. Clatter. Palace guards stepped forward with gleaming blades. Your Majesty, forgive me. I didn't mean to offend. Horus shrieked. He collapsed, his legs dragging as he was hauled away. A distant thud echoed, and a guard returned, presenting a bloody head. Your Majesty. Executed. Leave it there. The monarch said wearily. He was plagued by headaches. The upcoming auction and my steam engine were consuming his focus. He clenched his fists. He couldn't act rashly. Once his master's grand plan unfolded and the Abyss army arrived, the entire continent would belong to them. Yanhuang and the myriad races would be dust. Yet, he hated being outdone by me. He had to possess what I had. His intuition warned him that these strange technologies might one day threaten his master's plans. He needed more engines to study, especially since Horus had destroyed the only one they had. The hall remained silent, save for the gaze of Horus's severed head, whose eyes remained wide open in eternal, desperate disbelief. The Dark Knight monarch was furious. Even the powerful noble families dared not openly oppose him on military matters, and Horus's death was his own foolish fault. As the officials stood in anxious silence, the monarch broke the tension. My subjects, the steam engine is truly miraculous. How can we ensure the Dark Knight Empire possesses them in abundance? The monarch scanned the room and demanded an answer. A Warhawk general stepped forward, arrogantly suggesting, launch a campaign into the Yanhuang Empire. Capture me, and the steam engines will be ours for the taking. He believed the Dark Knight Alliance's military strength far surpassed that of Yanhuang. Merged into 22925, fool. Have you learned nothing from the human principalities or the Orc Empire's explosions? The monarch roared. All you think about is war. Do you want me to execute you all? A teacup flew across the room, striking the general's forehead and drawing blood. Merged into 22929. The general wiped the blood, suppressing his rage to apologize. With his master's backing, The monarch no longer feared the noble families. The eastern continent would soon be his. Calming down, the monarch explained, "War is impossible. Yanhuang's generals are strong, and their new crimson airships and bombs are too dangerous to challenge. Furthermore, he needed to deploy his forces for the upcoming Myriad Races auction to serve his master's grand plan." The officials were confused. If he wanted steam engines but refused to fight, what was the solution? "Then we must buy them," a civil official suggested. "We purchase them in bulk to study their structure and replicate them." While officials thought this was for national strength, the monarch secretly feared my tech would hinder his master. Since Yanhuang wouldn't share the manufacturing secrets, buying and reverse engineering was the only path. Additionally, deploying these engines internally would appease the restless populace. Without this, his prestige would plummet, making it harder to maintain control. Gritting his teeth, the monarch realized I had set a trap. "Very well. Send an envoy to the Yanhuang Empire immediately to purchase them." When asked what if I refused, the monarch smiled coldly. He won't. He knew I wouldn't risk an all-out war by pushing the Dark Knight Empire too far. Merged into 22945, the envoy returned within a week with news that shocked the court. Yanhuang's internal price was a mining right or 10 tons of resources per unit, including workers and molds. For the Dark Knight Alliance, I demanded 100 tons of energy or monster crystal cores per unit, with no workers or molds included. The court was filled with indignation. I was clearly extorting them. I knew they had no choice but to pay my exorbitant price. The monarch, livid, asked, why did he refuse mining rights? Merged into 22954, the envoy trembled. He demanded finished energy ores and monster crystal cores, warning against any inferior quality. I knew that sending my own men to mine in enemy territory would be a death sentence. Finished goods were the only safe currency. I insisted on high-quality materials, refusing to budge on the price. The monarch struggled with the cost, asking, can he not lower it? Despite the Alliance's vast resources, such a drain was unsustainable. He said the price is non-negotiable. The envoy replied, terrified. Merged into 22959. The monarch's temper had grown volatile, and his authority was absolute. Realizing he had no choice, he decided to proceed to gain the technology. Buy them. Use our entire inventory to purchase 70 steam engines and 50 production lines. The minister bowed and complied. They would distribute the units for development and keep 20 for research. The monarch hoped this investment would secure his standing and aid his master's conquest. Merged into 22966. Over 10,000 tons of high-quality resources were shipped to Yanhuang. I laughed. The Dark Knight Monarch is truly a generous man, providing us with such vital reserves. With the higher plane looming, Yanhuang desperately needed these strategic materials. Merged into 22970, the influx of resources delighted me. Chen Kun joked about the monarch's generosity, drawing laughter from the court. I ordered, to reward his generosity, send him the 70 steam engines we decommissioned last month for wear and tear. The court cheered at the Emperor Lord's brilliance. Since the enemy wouldn't know the difference, selling them defective units was a masterstroke. I felt my luck had improved significantly since the merit-based Heavenly Thunder. As my people's faith grew, I felt the power of faith accumulating within me. This was a new, powerful force I could now command. In the Imperial Garden, I sat in meditation, attempting to harness this energy. I saw a golden light sphere in my mind, with countless threads connecting to the people of Yanhuang. The faint threads represented the wavering faith of commoners. Thicker threads belonged to martial artists, while the strongest, thumb-thick strands belonged to loyal generals like Bai Qi and Zhao Zilong. Through these threads, I could vaguely sense the location and life force of every believer. I felt like a god, reigning supreme over all. The voices of my subjects and believers echoed within my mind, emanating from the golden orb of light. They prayed for mercy, praised my virtues, and expressed gratitude for my reign. As I held the golden orb, I felt as though I grasped the myriad lives of my people in my palm. Immersed in the orb, I attempted to channel its power.